All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, we're going to call our regularly scheduled Palmdale City Council meeting to order. And what I'd like to do is have everybody please rise. And I'd like to see if we can get a scout to come up here to help lead us in the pledge. Is that a possibility?
There might be a couple of uniformed ones right back there.
Exactly. It's called impromptu delegation.
All those in uniform, please salute. Everyone else, try to hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's remain standing for a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you. All right, item 3 on our agenda is the roll call, please.
Mayor Ledford,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carrillo,
Here.
Councilmember Hoffbauer,
Here.
Councilmember Betancourt,
Here.
Councilmember Bishop.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. We're going to start off. We have our animal control critter of the month, I guess we could call it. But we don't know if it's going to be a dog, a cat, or a rabbit, or whatever. But we got a dog. And we've actually made a couple of adoptions, ladies and gentlemen, so our program works. So what I'd like to do is introduce our animal care volunteer, which you could be too, if you want. Anyway, why don't you take the floor here and give me a mic. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse. I'm from the Palmdale Animal Care Center. And tonight I have this cute 10-year-old mini pinscher. His name is Benji. He came into our care on 28th of July as a stray. And I was looking for a good home. For anybody who wants to take care of a senior for a good time, here's one for you. He's very active for 10 years old, believe it or not. And very treat motivated too. So he won't sing, but he does grab the treats out of your hand real quick if you let him. Here, Benji. Benji. Hey.
Treat.
Come on.
It's going down.
There, all right. Anyway, he's our, you okay? All right. He's also our AV Pet of the Week. We have a group called Paws of Sunshine that come to the shelter. A couple volunteers. They come to the shelter and they take the dog's pictures and then they send them to AV Press to get the dogs in the paper so they get some advertisement there. And he's been there. They also take video of them to send to AV Press also.
Nope, there's the
He
treats.
is, yeah, you know where they're at.
I think he wants to go home with you, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You can tell he's very active for some treats. Right, bud? Yeah. But he's a good boy. We don't know if he is housebroken or not because he did come in as a stray. But he's very well mannered and he also gets along with other animals because he does have a little chihuahua with him in his cage. But, you know, he's a very, very sociable dog. We had him in the clinic before I came over here trying to clip his nails. He didn't like that at all, but we got him clipped because they were too long. But other than that, he's got his chip, which he didn't have when he came in. He's altered and he has his shots for the year. So he is ready to go home anytime. Right? Yeah? Okay. Anyway, what I do at the shelter is I'm one of the leads and I help basically clean the facility. We do training when we have new volunteers and I get to have my fun with them after their 15 hours and evaluate what they have learned at the shelter, so they become active volunteers. I'm batting 1,000 right now because I haven't failed anybody yet. So hopefully that streak will keep going. But we teach them how to pull dogs out of the cages, how to socialize with them, what to do to get the dog to, if it's kind of shy and scared, which most of them are when they're in their cages, we teach our volunteers how to approach them, how to get them leashed, and basically just how to make them sociable again and have them trust us. And these guys, once they start trusting us, it's like having a pet of your own.
Yeah.
Because they see you coming, and first thing they want to do is get out of the cage. It's like, take me out, But we try to keep our volunteers roaming from animal to animal so that they don't get used to one animal and the animal doesn't get used to that person only. Because that way it becomes harder for somebody else to take them out too. We have a really good rapport with them, and they usually react to us very well. We had clear the shelters 2 weeks ago. We did really well. We had 32 adoptions, dogs and cats, and 1 rabbit.
Very good.
Yeah.
So there's several things you can do as an individual. You could adopt this dog, Richard.
I've got one already.
Or you could consider volunteering. Or you could consider being part of a support group that wants to work with the animal care facility. Because we would like to try to place as many pets with as many families as we can. And that's really the point here, is we're trying to create a culture of connectivity with our animal shelter, that's all. So that's what it's about tonight. I want to thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Anything we're missing?
I can't think of anything right now.
Fabulous.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. See you, Benji.
Hi, Benji. Come on. Take this.
All right. We have the Daughters of the American Revolution are here tonight. Who is?
Not all of them.
Not all of them?
Just one.
Just one? Because we have some recognition for
Yes, you do.
you.
Thank
You'll be
you.
the bearer of
Yes, of good tidings.
good
yes.
tidings. Well, why don't you maybe spend just a couple short minutes and tell us a little bit about your mission.
Okay, I'm glad to do that.
Yeah.
I'm here representing the Antelope Valley chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Our national organization was founded in 1890, and the local chapter was founded in 1956. The Daughters of the American Revolution, or DAR, promotes historic preservation, education, and patriotism. There are 2 documents that are paramount importance to American history: the Declaration of Independence, which forged our national identity, and the United States Constitution, which set forth the framework for the federal government that is still in use today. The DAR initiated the observance of Constitution Week in 1955 when the organization petitioned the U.S. Congress to dedicate September 17th through 23rd of each year to commemorate Constitution Week. Congress adopted the resolution on August 2nd, 1956. President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed it into public law. This is the 61st anniversary of the resolution and the 230th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution. The DAR strives to keep alive the memory of the men and women who secured our nation's independence and whose bravery and sacrifice made possible the liberties we enjoy today. We're grateful to the Palmdale City Council and Mayor Ledford for issuing this proclamation, which helps to foster knowledge of and appreciation for the Constitution and the inalienable rights it affords to all Americans. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we put together a proclamation kind of recognizing the Daughters of the American Revolution, Constitution Week 2018. And it talks about the Constitution of the United States, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to the rule of law, and this is kind of replicating what you're already saying, but it marks 231st anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States. Very special in the world, obviously. It's fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document, and it's a memorable anniversary, and it's a patriotic celebrations, and that's really what you guys do well. And Public Law 915 guarantees the issuance of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States, distinguishing September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. So we're just emulating what's going on at the federal level. But it's important to bring it back home, because what you do is connect young people to the Constitution.
Correct.
And how are you going to protect something you don't understand?
That's right. We're
So-
going out to all the schools this week and distributing documents to every school in the Antelope Valley.
Very good. So, now therefore I, James C. Ledford, Jr., Mayor of the City of Palmdale, on behalf of our entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787. Imagine. Quite a run. So, ma'am,
Thank you very
this
much.
is for you. Good job.
Thank you.
Let's get a picture.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, yes, please. Let's do it. Thank you so
Anything
much.
else?
No, that's great. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Yes, Mayor, I don't think we have any confirmed recipients.
For this.
For that.
What we have is this next item has to do with recognition for recipients to the County Sanitation District of Los Angeles Certificate of Recognition Program. What we do is every year we pick some of our biggest users and we celebrate them. So I'm wondering if we have anybody here tonight from either D&J Printing, Lockheed Martin Corporation Site 2, Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation, Site 3, Northrop Grumman Systems Site 4. So these are our big users of the system, and they are really making the compliance happen as far as how we deal with our sanitation. So we just wanted to recognize them, but I don't think we have anybody here recognizing the industry. So what we'll do is we'll forward these certificates, and again, we do it annually, so it's really to encourage compliance and just good stewardship. So, we'll give you that. All right, now, we're going to do some certificates of recognition to the visiting class. Colegio Maria Alvarado, Lima, Peru. Do we have a spokesperson? Perfect. Could we? As I understand, we're going to see something. You guys are going to entertain us. But I'd like to at least describe the program and what we're doing. What's our overall goal? Yes, get this one. We're just going to face those people right there.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jim Ledford and Councilman. My name is Andre, and I have the honor and the noble duty to express a few words of sincere gratitude for the opportunity to live this great experience here with all of you. It is a reason of great satisfaction to mention that this International Foreign Exchange Student Program allows us to make a dream come true, living great adventures and experiences, learning from another culture, and meeting new people. Our thanks to Ms. Rosa Serna Armstrong, alumni of our beloved Lima High School, for her passion and dedication, for being a promoter of this wonderful initiative of cultural learning, in which we feel deeply the love, honor, and service, which is our school's motto, and which remains alive in our hearts. Our school has 112 years of existence, in which many generations were educated and prepared. One of its students was my grandmother, Cristina, class Blue 1959, who is now in heaven, but left many lessons learned in our grade school and a very special love for life. Visit this beautiful place is so incredible, and it fills me with excitement and satisfaction. It is the first time I travel so far without my parents, but they encourage and support me since they know that this trip is a great opportunity that unfortunately only 6 students can do. Participating in this foreign exchange student program is one of the greatest aspirations of the second grade of secondary in our school, because it is achieved through our own efforts. Here, there are many things different to my country, such as the language, the way of expressing oneself, the city, the culture, among others. All of this enriches our trip and gives us the opportunity to know and learn a lot of, as well as to live new and great experiences. On behalf of my classmates and my school, I thank you for the hospitality, friendship, and opportunity you gave us to visit this wonderful place that is the city of Palmdale. Thank you so much.
All right. What I'd like to do at this time is, should we recognize these individuals? And then you guys are going to, you have a performance?
Yes.
So how about if we do the recognition now?
Very good. We have the teacher.
Yes, teacher would be perfect. We like to include as many as possible. Hi. Maybe you can help me. What we're going to do is you're going to help me pronounce the names. The biggest challenge in a diversity like Palmdale is diversity is sometimes difficult to pronounce. So it takes a lot of practice. You're going to help me out though, please.
A certificate of recognition to Sebastián Alejandro Chuctaya Álvarez.
Congratulations, City of Palmdale. Yeah, would you stand right there?
To Andrea Mercedes Gil Díaz.
Congratulations. Good work. It's for you.
To André Nicolás Orihuela Roldán.
Congratulations.
To Marjorie Josepina Delgado Enciso.
Very good. Congratulations.
To Rosa María Guamán Castilla.
Congratulations.
To Eduardo Samuel José Rosales Sánchez.
Congratulations.
And to Elizabeth Castro Dávalos.
That's for you. Well, good. We're going to use yours as an example. I'm going to read what the certificate says. City of Palmdale is pleased to extend to you and your students a very warm welcome on your visit to our community as part of the Student Exchange Program at the Palmdale School District. We hope you have a wonderful experience while you are here and wish you the best in everything for your future.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations and thank you so much. Okay, so what's next?
Next, they are going to do a presentation, a Peruvian one to you.
Excellent.
Okay? Yes.
And we're going to do it right here?
Yeah, okay, yes.
Is there room?
First the girls, and then the next of the presentation. They are going to dance. Okay?
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Only the girls here.
is a country located in South America. It means land of abundance. Peru is divided into 3 geographical groups: the coast, the highlands or mountains, and the jungle.
Okay. In these 3 regions, people have their own customs of dressing, eating, and dancing.
On the coast, the Northern Marinera has been declared Cultural Patrimony of Nation and is considered by many as Queen and Lady of all the dances in Peru in its regional varieties. The Northern Marinera is a mixed couple in which sensuality and elegance are distinguished. Now we are going to appreciate a sample of our beautiful Northern Marinera.
In the highlands or mountains, the wildlife is diverse according to the traditional tendencies of each region or locality. For its cheerful tone, it is accompanied by an independent mixed couple dancing, or sometimes in a round. Currently, it exerts some influence of all the Andean countries that were part of the Tahuantinsuyo. Now, a dancer will interpret the beautiful wildlife.
The dances de la selva reflect more respect for nature that provides food, shelter, and well-being. It is danced to animals, to water, to earth, and to rain. The daily dressing of these inhabitants corresponds to the one used in tropical climates. Both women, men, and children dress without formalities, dressing comfortable clothing typical of the rainforest climate. Now, a dancer will interpret Yakumama, a cheerful jungle dance.
That's it? Well, not to say that's it. That was wonderful.
I would like to say some words.
Please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rosa Armstrong. I work for Palmdale School District. I came to the United States when I was 16 years old. I am graduated from this school. That school is 112 years old. I came here 46 years ago now. You do the formula and know how old am I. But this initiative started 4 years ago, and we have a very, very good board member in the Palmdale School District, and I'd like to mention Mr. Carrillo. This student exchange, we got together, and he was one of the promoters also. He was one of the sponsors. The first sponsor, we brought 6 students, and now we are able to only bring 6 students because this is only volunteer job. In the audience, I have some of the sponsors, and I would like you to stand up, please, because they need to be recognized. This is only volunteer job. That's the reason why I wanna give also something good to my country and to this country that opened their arms to me. I came when I was 16, and I came completely blinded. If I would have the opportunity to come here when I was their age, I think it would happen something different to me. That's why I'm giving the opportunity to the students in my school first, and let's see. It seems that this year there is another schools in Peru that they also want to be part of this project. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very good. Well, you know, there's always an opportunity for a sister city. We have one we've had for 40 years, but that doesn't stop us from creating another one. So it takes people in both communities who want to participate in that exchange, cultural exchange. But keep that in mind. That may be something we may want to foster.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good job. All right, let's keep on going on our agenda. We're at item 5. This is our waiver of full reading of resolutions and ordinance.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. All right, before we go to item 6, I think we have another. We're not done.
Not sure we're done.
Certificate for you, for the city of Palmdale, and behalf of Maria Alvarado School.
Go front here. So, she's presenting certificates to us, to the city of Palmdale. This is in recognition and sincere appreciation of support and commitment to
Colegio María Alvarado, Lima
Thank you.
High School.
Lima High School. Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Very good. Anyway, that's what it looks like. All right, now we're at item 6. This is the consent calendar, and this gives the public an opportunity to come speak to any item on the consent calendar. And your purpose would be to try to convince us that we need to pull that item for even further discussion. So if anybody's here to talk to anything on item 7 in our council agenda, 7.1 through 7.13, that's what this item on the agenda is for. That's a consent calendar. We can approve it all in one motion if we choose. However, this gives the public an opportunity to approach us if they have a particular interest. Anybody wish to do so? All right, seeing none. Anybody on the council want to pull an item for discussion?
I'd like to pull 7.12, please.
All right. Any others? Or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? How about a roll call, please?
Mayor Ledford,
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Carrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffbauer,
Yes.
Councilmember Bettencourt,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
passes with 5 yes votes.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to item 7.12.
The reason I wanted to pull this item, and if I can have our Assistant City Manager kind of introduce what the item is.
Good evening, Council. This is to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palmdale in support of reauthorizing of the full funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And as, do you want to explain or you want me to go into detail? Point of reference, we've received a grant from them in the past to help fund improvements at Dillon Park.
Yes, that's exactly the reason I wanted to pull this item out, to let you know that if this is approved, we the council really want to support this kind of resources coming back into the federal agendas. Looks like the current administration pulled this out. And what this is money that comes to land, open land uses. For instance, Dillon Park, thanks to this fund, we were able to get $2.5 million to get phase 1 of Dillon Park. Again, the current administration pulled this out, this type of funding throughout the nation. And I received an email from a member that wants to bring awareness to cities. That this needs to get the support from cities to get this back onto the agenda at the federal level, so that we can continue to receive this funding, so that we can, in this example is the construction of Dillon Park. There's many other uses that this money can be used for, again, mainly for open land. And I just wanted to have this brief introduction of what this was about. Again, I got an email asking us if we could have this on the agenda. It was critical to be today because it's going to be presented this month, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. Again, just to bring this to the attention of everybody, that this is something that we really need to get back on the federal agenda. And thank you to the council for the support.
Thank you for keeping an eye on it for that stuff.
Well, it's important for us because that's how we do. I mean, we're a partner with the feds and the state, and these grant monies is what makes things happen in our community. And you may or may not be aware of it, we don't get a big piece of the property tax you and I both pay in the city. It comes in other forms and fashion. So it's important to go after as many resources as possible, and certainly in our Parks and Rec, that's a high priority for us. So, thank you, good point.
Thank you, staff, for doing that.
All right, how about a motion if you're ready?
I'll move to approve. Second?
Okay, we got a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered.
So if any of you are here on the ring camera item, that was approved with the previous item, so you don't have to stay. It's been approved.
All right. Item 8, appointments. 8.1. These are to our Library Board of Trustees. This is to fill a term expiring June 30th, 2019. We had a solicitation for volunteers, and I went through there and I recommend that we appoint John Manning to our Library Board. I think John will do an excellent job. He's got good energy, and I think he'll bring something to the board. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah, second that motion? Yeah.
Yeah, if we can make it a motion. I made it a motion. It didn't take a second, but any discussion?
No.
Then we can, how about if I make the motion to move to appoint John Manning as the Library Board of Trustee?
I think Mr. Bishop then seconded it.
No, it says no need first.
Okay.
Didn't require it, but
No.
we appreciate it. Because ultimately, we're all have a chance to vote. So we have motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. All right, let's go now to item 8.2, discussion and action regarding the second alternate position for the Antelope Valley Transit Authority.
So I think we got that, we resolved the question as far as the semantics on the alternate positions over there. And the question was the use of the word and versus there seemed to be the impression that could only be one, and the consensus was they're going to be bringing back the JPA amendment so we can facilitate kind of what the agency's interpretation is. Basically, is we want to keep the seats filled for these meetings and move it forward with regular assignments. So what I was asking for on this particular item is just simply if we could direct City Clerk to initiate the solicitation so we can move forward, because it's been a few months now since we've been able to properly fill that, because we've got, we got the issue that we got two of us, we only have two of us that can go there. If for some reason something comes up and either one of us are gone or something, we just have the potential for not being able to have the seat filled. So if I was just looking to provide direction for the city clerk to initiate the search process so we can move on this thing in a timely manner.
So the search meaning for a non-elected official alternate?
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the item. We have an item, next item in this is call for public comments. Any from the public wish to make comment? Merely come forward and give us your name for the record. All right, seeing none. Discussion by the council or a motion?
Do we need a motion on that? Or
Just a motion to direct the city clerk to advertise.
Solicit. Okay, so moved.
Second.
Got a motion? We got a second? Now, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered, without opposition. All right, let's now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call to order. We have two other agencies here, and I'm going to go ahead and get that out of the way. We have our successor agency, which I'm going to call to order. If I could have a roll call, please.
Chair Ledford.
Here.
Vice Chair Carrillo.
Here.
Director Hoffbauer.
Here.
Director Betancourt. Here. Director Bishop.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. We have a consent calendar. Again, the public's opportunity to make comment on the consent calendar. I can tell you the consent calendar really speaks to investment balances and minutes. If you want to make comment, this will be your opportunity to do so. All right, seeing none. So item 4, we have 2 items. Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve those 4 items, the success ordinance?
Yeah, 4.1 and 4.2.
4.1 and 4.2.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. All right, we're now going to call the Housing Authority to order. If I could have a roll call, please.
Chair Ledford,
Here?
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Here.
Commissioner Hoffbauer,
Here.
Commissioner Bettencourt,
Here.
Commissioner Bishop,
Here.
Commissioner Brown. We have a quorum.
Okay, doke. How about a motion to excuse Member Brown? I think he left.
Motion to excuse Mr. Brown?
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. Okay, so let's now go to item 3 on the Housing Authority agenda, consent calendar. Again, the public's opportunity to address the Housing Authority on the items of, well, we have a annual report for Health and Safety Code authorization, and then you also have the minutes. Anybody from the public? All right, seeing none. From a council, you want to pull one or you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. So what I'll do with the non-agenda item, item 5, I'm going to recess the Housing Authority. We'll pick it back up at public comment. We're back to the successor agency. We have a joint special report. What I'm going to put that aside until we come to it. And right now, we're going to go back now to our City Council agenda, and we have public hearings. 9.1. This is a public hearing under the Tax and Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We are here tonight for this TEFR hearing because of the IRS code. The city must approve this public hearing because this facility will be located in the city of Palmdale. So the item being considered tonight is resolution number CC 2018-063, and it reads, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palmdale approving the issuance of charter school revenue bonds by the California Municipal Finance Authority in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $40 million for the purpose of financing and or refinancing the acquisition, construction, and equipping of the educational facilities to be used as a California public charter school and certain other matters relating thereto. So the borrower, Design, Create, and Explore, requested that California Municipal Finance Authority, or CMFA, serve as the issuer of bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed the $40 million. And it will be used to finance and acquire land and construct improvements at the property 3300 East Palmdale Boulevard. It's for an educational facility, and it will be operated by the Aerospace Academy. In order for all or a portion of the bonds to qualify as tax-exempt bonds, the City of Palmdale must conduct this public hearing. It's called the TEFR hearing, providing for the members of the community an opportunity to speak in favor or against the use of the tax-exempt bonds for the financing of this project. So this adoption of this resolution will not obligate the city to finance the project or repay the debt. So it's not city debt, it's not obligation of the city. Notice of the TEFR hearing tonight was published on August 20th, giving the members of the community notice to the meeting and their opportunity to speak on the project. Staff recommends that the City Council hold a public hearing, adopt the resolution CC 2018-063. Representatives from CMFA and from the headmaster, or the headmaster of the school is here tonight if you have any additional questions.
All right. Thank you. Any questions from the council at this point?
I just want to make it clear to the public that our obligation as a city here is to hold the hearing. We're not controlling the money. The money doesn't come out of our general fund. We are required, because the school falls within our jurisdiction, to hold this public hearing to give you, as our residents, an opportunity to speak for or against this topic.
Well put. So, anybody have any questions for the headmaster? No? Then why don't we go ahead and open the public hearing? Anybody wish to testify on this matter, you merely come forward and give us your name for the record. And we need to come up front, ma'am, if you'd like to speak.
My name is Patricia Pratt, and I live in the neighborhood of 35th Street East and Palmdale Boulevard off Q10.
Okay.
Okay. When I bought my home there 3 years ago, I bought my home there because it was no outlet, it was a closed-in neighborhood, and there were no schools. None. That's why I bought my home there. Now we have this monstrosity over there. Traffic is absolutely outrageous. You can't get in, you can't get out. I have pictures and videos that I took today that last year on their first day of school, the line of cars blocking driveways caused a woman to have to call 911 because she couldn't breathe and no one would let her out of her home, okay, to get to the hospital. I have medical problems. I have anxiety issues. I went to the store the other day trying to beat the 3 o'clock, and at 3:30, one woman's not allowing me to turn onto Q10 because she says, well, I can't block the road. Well, I'm sorry, then get over into your own lane. Okay, it's an absolute nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I didn't know anything about a meeting last time. I never got a notice. I never got a notice for plans for this school to go up, and now I'm hearing I got the notice. I called City Hall this last week asking about it, and he said, oh, there was already a meeting, but only 2 people from your neighborhood showed up. I'm like, well, I didn't even know about it. I never got a notice. Okay, people are not happy. This is, and if you go put another elementary school in there and a soccer field and a gym field, we might as well lock ourselves in our homes because we won't be able to leave. This has been wrong. $250,000 for a home, and you can't be in peace. You can't come, you can't leave, you have to look at the clock. You've got to make sure you're going to not be there. I go and I try to get into my neighborhood, and I'm getting sworn expletives at. When this all first started, I had to leave. I had to go to the doctor. I had a doctor appointment. I'd go to leave, and the lines all the way around blocking everybody's driveways, and I look over and this one woman, Children's, turns her window down and she looks at me and she goes, hey, the line's back there. Okay, I'm like, excuse me? This is my neighborhood. You know, my taxes didn't go to build that school. Okay, and all this money that should be going into these schools should be going into our schools. Who's ever building these charter schools? Our public schools are suffering.
Okay.
Okay. Why isn't the money going into our schools to build them up? get more teachers in, get bigger classes, more classes, specialty classes. All of this can be done. You know, and this is wrong, so it's my time's up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else wish to speak? Yes, sir. Ma'am, I'm sorry.
My name's Laura Fuller, and I guess my question is to address you is, when we bought our home back in 2009, after 2 years we got stuck with a Melrose tax, which is basically a school tax. So is that a possibility of this happening in this neighborhood?
No, ma'am.
That's what we were told.
Well, the Melrose was a
7,000 is a big jump.
I live at 35th and S, and I can assure you there's no Melrose.
But what about new developments? Will they be paying for
I
that?
could just I don't know.
The school district determines the Melrose for education. In this particular case, that's what you're referring to as far as mitigation for additional classrooms, portables, et cetera, et cetera. That's really what the Melrose is about. It's been approved citywide. It was driven by the Palmdale School District. The city doesn't, we don't participate in that.
Yeah, neither do we when we sign our docs because they don't tell us until 2 years later. But I just wanted to make sure that this neighborhood don't get screwed like we did. Because a lot of people foreclosed because their property taxes though. That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, who else would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I think we have a public hearing. Oh wait, that's it? How about a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. All right, council, discussion?
Well, I think, you know, the lady's got a point. I understand what she's going through. I live by school too, but that's outside the scope of what we're looking at here this evening. However, I think the sheriff captain is in the back of the room there someplace. He might be the guy to talk to about enforcement issues. And I think the traffic pattern and design are issues that can be addressed when they start bringing design plans forward. That's when we look at the traffic routes and things of that nature, how to mitigate that. This is strictly to determine if there's a if there's any reason to not approve the bond program, which are private equity bonds. So it's not city bonds, not state bonds, anything else like that. We just sort of draw the short straw to have the hearing here, that's all. So
Our job is to facilitate the public's input. So that's what we're doing. Anybody else want to? Well, we already did all that. Time for us to discuss or make a motion.
all right, where's the
I'll move approval. I'll make it easier.
okay, second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Then let's call for the question. And I'm going to say anybody, all in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody in opposition? All right, hearing none, pass unanimously. Go get it. But when we say the traffic is something that we're constantly monitoring, ma'am, I don't want you to feel like we're just ignoring your issues, but we believe that we can work through those. And I know it's different prior to the school showing up. It's certainly much different, but we can work it. We can work it, and we will insist on close coordination on how we move forward.
Thank you. It's really hard.
I understand.
It's really hard.
Okay. With that, we're moving on. Let's now go to item 9.2.
Mayor and members of the City Council, the item being considered tonight is resolution number CC 2018-065 and reads a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palmdale directing the execution of a notice of cessation of special tax improvement area B of the City of Palmdale Community Facilities District number 2003-1 or Anaverdi Public Improvements District. The Anaverdi Development established Community Facilities District in 2004, designating 4 different improvement areas, A through D. A was developed and is currently being assessed special taxes to pay for bonds issued to develop its infrastructure. No bonds or improvements have been done for area B or D, or B through D, B, C, and D. The owner of the property located in improvements area B, C, and D, the new Anaverdi LLC, would like the council to consider approving the resolution to remove area B from the Anaverdi District Improvement Area and the special taxes never be levied. Staff is taking a neutral position on this request and is just presenting it to council for your approval or not.
I got a question. We had our financial consultant give us a report on this.
We do not have we have spoken to our financial consultant to get a overview of the cost of potential levy in this district. Potentially the maximum amount we can levy right now is over $8 million. Because that rate and method was established when Anaverdi A was, the improvements were approved. Now, when all the other areas are brought forward for their improvements, of course, that rate and method would be reevaluated, and it could be different. But right now, the rate and method that is established and is the lien on area B through D is based on A. And so the maximum amount of levy would be $8 million a year. That doesn't mean that would be the levy. So that's just the potential amount of funds that could be brought in to issue bonds and pay for improvements.
That's if the CFD was in effect.
If the CFD was, yes.
If it's not in effect, then we're looking at really the investment of the developer for all those same improvements. And that's really why I wanted to bring the financial advisor in. You have two of the probably most complex master plan communities in our city are in Anaverdi and Ritter Ranch. Very complex. We had two development agreements that took years and years to negotiate, and a finance package that's very complex. And it's how do you leverage to get the maximum, out of that. And okay, I get that part, but when we start pulling one out, my concern is, what does that mean to the bigger picture, not just this development? Because quite frankly, we've heard tonight that a Melrose may not be the most popular thing, and if you can get a CFD tax eliminated, that probably is a good thing. But I believe what I understand is happening is the cost is still going to be borne by the homeowner, it just won't be in a CFD. There's just another way to go. But my request was to have our financial advisor to review the two master plans and this concept as something that won't do damage to already approved. We got 12,000 units up there and a very complex development agreements. And I'm just concerned that I don't want to mess that up. And I have nobody here because we're giving this this is a council decision. So I'm not feeling like I've got all the information I need to feel confident in taking a neutral position from the staff. I just feel vulnerable as a council member, like I'm not getting all the information.
I'd have to agree with you, Mayor. That's one of the areas in my district, and it's really important how we're going to move forward with that, and to have one part of the area under one set of rules and a different set of rules for people who are living next door to you can be very convoluted.
And that's a cautionary tale because, Juan and I are on the east side, and we remember, 10, 15 years ago when they started to build housing tracts, and then they stopped halfway through. When the funding was not there to finish and there wasn't money for infrastructure, there was a lot of abandoned housing tracts and neighborhoods that were half built and half not, and it became quite a burden and an eyesore. So I would use extreme caution because that funding for the infrastructure and the improvements in that area, I don't think, because otherwise you'll have what happened on the east side 10, 15 years ago.
Well, it's happened in more than just the east side. We got a lot of neighborhoods over on the west side.
I can just speak to the area of the city that I live in.
Well, I drive all around the city, and that happened all over. But here's the bigger issue. The first batch of homeowners up there have got that CFD that they're paying for a long, long, long time. And that brought up the sewer, they brought the water, they brought the streets, they've got 2 parks and a school up there that helped build. I mean, my neighborhood's 25 years still waiting for a park, and we're still hearing everybody's poor. But now you're going to have this area where you're going to have one neighborhood's paying for the park, but the other neighborhoods still have access to that park and that school and those roads. And even though that theoretically costs are going to be borne in the price of the house, that's not picking up the tab for those improvements. I mean, it seems to me like if I was living up there, and I consciously made the choice when we were looking for a house We didn't go up there because the tax rate was just, I mean, he said, it was just gonna kill us. But I don't understand why we don't just reduce the overall Mello-Roos in the first area, just have a lower Mello-Roos throughout there to help continue paying for that. I just,
Because you've got criteria in a specific plan that's approved to be put in. So we already know what we want. The financing is designed to get us what we want. And so if you start reducing the financing, you're going to get less than what you want. And right now, I bet you want more, not less. And this whole thing could be innocent and pure and good. But a neutral position out of my staff doesn't build confidence in me. And these are, again, very large, complex master plans. Took us years to negotiate. And in one action tonight, we can remove one. And then I just don't feel confident yet. I'm not against it. I mean, we want to see those projects develop, but I wanted to develop in the scope of what we anticipated. Not something that may be kind of an afterthought of, oops, we couldn't do that, so you have to settle for less. And I'm not ready to do that. I'd like to see a negotiation of both master plans, and that may be the future. I think it is the future. So maybe we should be talking about that. And then it becomes a little easier to assign costs for infrastructure and trails and all those goodies that we want that are very expensive.
No, the concern that I have is with setting a precedence. What's area C and D going to stop them coming and asking the same thing from us? And then for other areas to be developed, like the east side, there's plenty of land over there. And just because this council decides to remove that from area B, then every other developer is going to come to us and, hey, you did this for them.
yeah, we got developers coming in looking to put those in, so they can do this. They can get the place built and get the infrastructure in there.
So what I would like to see happen, and I know it probably doesn't go well with the developer, I'd like to give our financial advisor an opportunity to come in and give us the type of advice we're paying them for, and give us that confident level that we are doing the right thing, and we're not going to sell the next phase for something less or more than what people expect. I think a reasonable expectation, that's an easy thing to violate. Once you achieve it, you want to keep it. And so that's kind of my position. I want to keep that until we know for sure. I don't want to be caught with these projects that are actually going to take some renegotiation. So it feels like we're doing it in a vacuum, that's all.
You know, Mayor, I was just going to add, I mean, no defense of the developer, but I think the developer's rationale here is that they're hoping to substantially change what was proposed out there. Different housing developments, different types of developments and things like that. And I think that's going to change everything within that area B, including the roads and all of that.
I agree.
But what I would suggest is that we maybe continue.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, how can we continue this so we can get some additional feedback and analysis on this? Because I'm not prepared to support this. I'm not convinced to not approve it. I'm not convinced either way at this point. I don't have enough information here to move forward.
I suggest continuing it. I'm not sure a month or 2 months.
Well, however long it takes us to get our financial advisor to come in.
I don't think there's any timeline.
Other than just scheduling the person to be here, it shouldn't take more than the next meeting to have these answers.
I'll make a motion then that we can continue this item to time to be determined, and then just properly notice it, and then we can do it then, because this way it's not putting an artificial time frame on this, but between the development team and the finance team, gives them time to just figure it out, and they're not sitting here pushing against an artificial deadline then. So I'll just move to continue the item.
Second.
Mr. Mayor,
We got a motion, second. We're going to allow you to speak. I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're doing.
One thing, I got the first and the second, but is the city going to pay our financial advisor to do the analysis? Shouldn't the developer be the one responsible for doing that, or how would that work?
The work that staff has done to date, along with we've had the attorney work on some of this, has been paid in advance by the developer.
Yeah, good. We're pro-development. We have a vision we want to see. That's really what this is all about. And I know you want to probably say something. Look, come on up, please.
There was a couple things said, Mr. Mayor. My name's Rich Nolan. I'm with Brook Street tonight here on behalf of the owners of Anna Verde, the new Anna Verde LLC. I appreciate your time here, and I'm sorry you don't have all the information you need. I totally understand kind of the vacuum of information you have, but just give me a second here, I'll tell you what we're doing. A lot of people think not much has happened out in Anna Verde over the past 10 years for that matter. And the reality is, it was a crazy complicated master plan community. In the past 10 years, working with the school district, but also with the city, it's become simplified. A lot of the settlement things that had to be worked out have been completed. We were looking at the Anna Verde Hills School built in Anna Verde that was promised to those people a long, long time ago. We've completed Avenue S. We've called bonds. There's been a lot of work that worked very closely with staff as well as the school district. So you go out there today, the signals are in, the streets are paved, the parks are done. There's been a lot of progress, and there's a lot of private ownership out there. And the great news is there's a lot of activity. There was a lot of vacant lots out there. Those lots are all but gone right now. And it speaks to the strength of obviously the market and the housing market out here, and we see a great future for Anna Verde. I was hoping by tonight it had been in, but we have new plans that we presented to the city staff last 6 months or so, where we've been talking about rebooting phase 2 of Anna Verde.
Good.
I think it's very exciting. It's a much smaller footprint, smaller number of units, but it has some new amenities that the community would like, including community pool that will be part of the HOA for both existing residents and future residents. It includes a potential active adult neighborhood that will be part of that. And of course, it will be completing a lot of the infrastructure, including Avenue S, and some other parks and trails and some other things. So there's a lot of activity going on out there. The purpose of this request isn't to get rid of the CFD. We would like to come back to you and ask for a CFD in the future. The problem is today, and as some of you may know, I'm sure Mr. Bishop does, we have some lots across from the school that's out there today. These lots have been graded, there's infrastructure, there's streets, there's water, there's sewer, everything's ready to go, has existing valid tentative track maps. We're under contract with KB Homes to build they're just about done with some of their other neighborhoods. They'd like to continue building in this neighborhood. We can't do it with the CFD, and part of the reason is the Area B in question is a different set of infrastructure requirements. It's a different set of school requirements if you have active adults. There's a whole different series. So what happens when we go to finance new construction or sell the land, you have this cloud on title, and it's not transactable today. You can't say what it is. And we're stopped on that property. So we're looking at an interim cessation. We would expect to come back and with no commitments that we can get from you today or next hearing, but we would look to come back and put in a CFD, probably a little more modest than the A, the existing, but still because we don't want a big disparity. We don't want a no CFD neighborhood with a CFD neighborhood next to it. The neighborhood, the HOA doesn't want that. We will make sure that we can keep that. I would take a condition that we come back and put a CFD prior to, moving forward on the rest of the development. But today, it is a cloud. We cannot transact with any of the land in there, and we can't get financing for any of the construction on it.
I think our goal is to move very quickly and get a plan that we can all get behind in March.
Where is the fire station in your plan? Because you were supposed to put a fire station there.
We have a place for the fire station. We have plans that are done, kind of building permit ready. The latest, we've had conversations, and it's been a while, so they can change, but the county fire did not want to build a station right now. We still have it designated.
They never want to build it because they don't want to pull the money out of the construction fund. We had that whole debate when we had built 93s and 136s.
Well, we were
when you want to
pay
talk
for the
about that, come
construction.
talk to me. I'll
We
show
were
you how
going
to
to
do
build it. It was the operational cost that was the issue.
Yeah.
We still have that area. We have a new area we call kind of a little village that has a small retail center. It'll have hopefully the fire station. We'd like to see the fire station there, especially with active adult. We think that'd be a positive.
What's your response times up there?
Yeah, and so we have that in our plan, so that has not gone away.
So you also have a commercial component to the new plan, because those residents there need to have a place to go shopping.
Yes. No, that sounds exciting. I mean, it's all exciting, but it's big.
Yes.
And this maybe triggers our need for more information on what's the future in these specific things. Because they are the future growth of our city, we know that.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that, and I'd be happy to come back and go through this. In fact, I know Ritter Ranch is now back in play. I like to think we're about 2 years ahead of them, but you never know. But I would be happy to come back and, as part of this hearing or another hearing, a study session, give you an idea of kind of what we're planning, timelines, what product we're looking at, how we're
Maybe you can
changing.
set up some briefings, with the council members so we can get a better feel for what you're really looking for up there, and then get together with Chuck and Karen to get to get some financial numbers out here, because I just know that when this thing started cooking, I started getting phone calls, and Anaverde isn't even my district, and I was getting calls and emails on that. So I just want to make sure that everybody's got all the right information, because I can't honestly, if I vote on this thing the other, a specific way tonight, and I can walk out the hall and I can't explain it. That's not how I vote.
I appreciate that. And just by the way, I did meet with the HOA. I actually sit on the HOA board. I made a presentation to the board of the new plan, but also a request for the cessation of Area B. We talked, obviously, diligently about making sure there's not this disparate tax rates in the same neighborhood.
Well, what I want to do is bring some clarity. What I'd like to do is I'd like our city manager actually to schedule the information so we can be comprehensive. Where staff side of it will be there. Obviously, you can be there, and we can do it in a way that I think builds the confidence we go on, and maybe the camaraderie we need to how we march forward.
Yeah, fully accept that.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? All right. We have a motion and a second on the table on a continuance. Anybody, any final thoughts out of the council? How about a roll call, please?
Mayor Ledford?
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Carrillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffbauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bettencourt?
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop?
Yes.
Passes unanimously to continue the item.
All right. Excellent. 9.3. The caper. We got our housing people.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Staff is requesting a public hearing to hear public comments, review and approve the 2017 through 2018 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, known as the CAPER, and to authorize the city manager and his designee to make necessary changes and submit the report to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, by September 28, 2018, in compliance with HUD regulations. The city is an entitlement city for the purposes of determining the eligibility to receive the annual allocation of Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and Home Investment Partnership, HOME funds, through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. At the beginning of each year, the city is required to submit an annual action plan. Then, at the end of each year, the city is required to submit a Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, the CAPER. This provides an assessment of the city's performance and a statement of its expenditures in meeting the goals and objectives stated in the 5-year consolidated plan and also in the annual action plan. Pages 2 and 3 of your staff report summarize the program year 2017 through 2018 allocation and estimated use of funds in the CAPER. For the CDBG program, an estimated $3.1 million was allocated in current and previous year funding, and an estimated $1.3 million was expended on programs. These programs included Course on Arts Colony, Housing Rights Center, and assisting over 9,000 individuals at the South Antelope Valley Emergency Services. For the home program, previous year and current year grant allocation was $1.3 million, and an estimated $348,000 was expended on programs including the Course on Arts Colony, affordable housing including rehabilitation and new construction, and in assisting 31 extremely low income and rent burdened seniors with the tenant-based rental assistance program. The city complied with the Citizen Participation Plan and CDBG regulations that require that the CAPER be made available for public review and comment prior to submitting it to HUD. A public notice informing citizens of the location of where the report was available for review, and also inviting oral or written comments either prior to or at tonight's public hearing was published in the Antelope Valley Press and the city website on August 20th, 2018. Staff requests that the City Council approve the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, and Home Investment Partnership Home Draft 2017 through 2018 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, the CAPER, and authorize the city manager or his designee to make any necessary changes and submit the report to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development by September 28, 2018. Staff is available for questions.
All right. Any questions for the staff?
Well, I just want to point out, when you say that you published the notice in the Antelope Valley Press, a lot of people don't know where to look for those notices. Can you explain where in the paper you post them and how many times it's posted in the paper?
The Antelope Valley Press determines where they put them into the newspaper, and
Isn't it usually in the back of the notices section?
it may be.
Public notice?
Yeah, I don't think the public really knows that in the back of your newspaper is where all the public notices are for these types of things. So I just want to educate the public.
Yeah, we also publish on our website.
Yeah.
So it is available in more than one place.
Right, right.
Additionally, it's in the library, City Hall, and other places on campus here.
I just want to make sure, because a lot of people go, well, I never heard of the hearing, I didn't know anything about it. And, you know, people read the first 3 pages of the paper, and they don't realize how important the information is in the back. So I just wanted to let the public be aware of where they can look for these types of things.
Okay. Any other questions? Why don't we go and open the public hearing? Anybody wish to speak on this side of you, merely come forward, give us your name, please. Seeing none. How about a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Got a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. Questions or motion?
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. Without objection, by the way.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to item 9.4. Zoning ordinance amendment.
Once the technology catches up, this will be presented by Matt Alcaron.
See, now we're losing people. Yeah, we got the hard copy version of it.
We can do this freestyle.
All right.
Good evening. In conjunction with approval of a 4-story hotel, the Planning Commission recommends the City Council approve a proposal to amend the Palmdale Municipal Code to increase the allowable building height in the C4 zone. The applicant is requesting an amendment to the Palmdale Municipal Code Section 17.54.100 to increase the building height to 4 stories in the C4 zone, and that additional height may be granted subject to an approval of a CUP. By requiring a conditional use permit approval for additional height, the city would facilitate review of possible adverse impacts and allow the Planning Commission to condition the design to mitigate those impacts on a case-by-case basis. Allowing the conditional height would encourage development of retail outlets and large office complexes, which is the intent of the C4 zone. The options for the City Council are to adopt ordinance number 1512, approving the zone ordinance amendment 18001 And finally, the project is exempt from environmental review. Option 2 is continue this item and direct staff to return with additional information as directed. Option 3 is to deny the project. The Planning Commission recommends option 1. That concludes my presentation and available for any questions.
All right, any questions?
I'll move to introduce the ordinance.
Second?
All right, if there's no questions,
No, I just want to say that I want to make sure that we're clear that this will not impact or interfere with any flight testing with Edwards in the future. So when you do the additional stories, I mean, that's all going to be discussed, right?
Correct. We have a study that shows all the AQ zones, which are the height restricted areas, and regardless of the height limit in any of the zones, if there's an AQ zone there, that further restricts any height to be provided.
Because the Edwards Air Force Base and all of our aerospace companies here are vital to this community for our financial health, and I want to make sure that we support them in every way possible.
Thank you.
all right, any other questions?
I do. The zone in here is C4, correct?
Correct.
You know, over by 4 Points, we do have quite a few acres of C4 with no development. So if C4 is going to allow now for 4 stories, if we ever get infrastructure there, we could potentially have like a 4-story building over there.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing, but some people may view that as a bad thing because the scenery, the landscape, the most we have is 2 stories, and those are single-family residences. So with this now, being a developer looks at this now, it may be a good thing because then they may be interested in putting some development over there. But
Well,
again,
it allows what, one more story?
yeah,
It's one more.
Yeah, it's one more story. But if you look over there, I mean, the development goes down with the mining activities over there. They're going to take it down. I don't know if this is going to really be good for us.
I think it's a potential. I think
It's-
it opens a lot of doors for these.
It's a
Yes.
good thing for this
Yes,
location.
it is.
But
It
the
is, but
general
it's a
plan,
C4. It's
the
a
general
C4.
plan will be the opportunity to speak to those issues. Because it's the same zoning, you're gonna talk about possibilities.
Yeah.
And they did this before. We thought regional shopping at that
But
location.
it's always good to talk about it now. We can wait for general plan, but it's good to have a conversation.
Yes, and
Also,
that's
the
what
other
I'm
thing
doing,
is
having
that,
the
you know,
conversation.
the building and the fire codes have had some adjustments in the last 25 years. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. And so it allows some more options as far as you provide certain mitigation features and podium features and stuff like this on your construction. It allows you to go that extra piece up, and it allows that developer to get some of these things to pencil out. And this is going to facilitate that, you know.
Well, thank you for mentioning pencil developments out. What, you know that it's difficult to get the infrastructure over there, sewer. What if we start talking about allowing some developments over there without having to connect to sewer? And maybe that will spark some development. They'll be conditioned to connect to sewer, like all the mining operations are. The Swami is conditioned to connect to sewer. Maybe it's just
That's a
worth
wa-
having
that's
conversation.
It's a good idea, but it has nothing to do with this item.
It does have a lot to do with this item because those properties are on C4. They could be up to 4 feet high, or 4
Agreed.
stories high.
But the item is about this particular piece of property.
I understand that, and it's on this property, but maybe we
I
should
think that
consider
more has
increasing
more
the
to do with
conversation over there.
our rules on that. I think we're more to comply with Lahontan's rules.
Yeah.
Regional.
I know it's
water quality.
complicated, but again, having that conversation, maybe you see the anxiety of developers not developing over there.
Yeah, oh, I get it.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, it's about this item here. I support this item.
Okay.
We have other hotels that are 4 stories already.
Yeah.
This is the right place to do
Yeah,
it.
it
but
just,
again,
it
it's
just
not-
turns out to be a lot of extra cost for those guys who
Yeah.
do a CUP and for 1 more floor or 2 more floors, and it's, you know.
And it's more valuable for the developer to come in and do that, especially being right across the street from the mall. And I want to thank Laura for bringing up the aerospace question with that, because that is very important for us. We want to make sure whatever we do.
I don't think this would even
doesn't
come
interfere.
forward if they hadn't talked to them, so.
The Air Force knows a lot more what we're doing than we give ourselves
They know
credit.
what we're doing. They know what you're doing.
Before you even do it.
That's right.
Before you do it. All right, any other questions? All right. Now, we have a motion to introduce the ordinance.
And it was seconded.
And a second. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. All right, so it's been introduced. Now we're going to have the public hearing to receive testimony. Who would like to speak on this item? You merely have to give me your name for your, and not your address, just your name. Yes, ma'am.
Debbie Cosell, Kosel. Just for those of us who are in the audience, where is this C4 and where is this property we're talking about?
Well, I think, can we go to the rendering up there and look at this?
Now it's working.
No, she doesn't have that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yes.
So the triangle that's just north of the freeway by the mall.
We're going to put it up here so everybody can see. No, it's not it.
It's the other one. You gotta exit out.
There it is.
Everybody's familiar with the triangle? 08, 10th Street West. Probably some of the best real estate we have.
That is a hot property.
Very hot. Hard to develop. All right. How about a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. All right. Discussion or motion?
Move to adopt ordinance number 1512.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. Let's go to item 9.5. Zoning Ordinance Amendment 18-003.
Okay, this item will be presented by Megan Taggart.
All right.
Good evening. At the August Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission approved a site plan review for construction of a personal storage facility located south of Avenue R8 on the east side of Sierra Highway. The site plan for the storage facility did not meet all applicable development standards, and therefore, as required by the conditions of approval, the site plan, the developer requested a zoning ordinance amendment to modify the personal storage facility section of the municipal code. The amendment proposes to remove the requirement to provide connectivity to future development, eliminate the requirement for 10-foot landscape side setback unless the facility is adjacent to agricultural, institutional, or residential uses or properties designated for future agricultural, institutional, or residential uses. Allow entrance gates into the facilities to be visible from the right-of-way and require those entrance gates to be architecturally compatible with the associated buildings. And the proposed modifications will ensure safety of future patrons, security of the future facilities, and avoid creation of long, narrow landscape areas for facilities situated within zoning designations that do not typically require side yard setbacks. The Planning Commission adopted a mitigated negative declaration in compliance with CEQA, and the amendment will not result in any changes to that adopted mitigated negative declaration. And the City Council has several options for this item. The first would be to adopt the draft ordinance and find that the amendment is consistent, would be to continue the item, and the third would be to deny the item. Option 1 is recommended, and that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
So you say that this change will increase security for patrons of this place?
By allowing the gates, the entrance gates, to be visible from the public right-of-way, currently they are required to be tucked behind the building so that people coming and going from the facility cannot be visible from the surrounding streets.
Do we have any requirement to have security cameras in there?
We do not.
Could we?
Not at this point. The project's been approved. This is only the zone change, zone text amendment to change the development standards. But with advisement, we could throw that into the list of things to add to self-storage facilities. We do have a requirement for security plans, but they don't specifically state numbers or locations or types of cameras.
I just know that throughout the Antelope Valley, I've been out here working as a civilian law enforcement for 20 plus years, and the storage facilities are notorious for having break-ins, and anything that we can do to help eliminate that would be beneficial to our community overall. So just throw that out there and see what we can do with that.
And it's been brought to my attention, I did not read the ordinance into the record, so I will do that now.
Okay.
It's an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palmdale, California, amending the Palmdale Municipal Code regarding personal storage facilities.
All right. Any other questions?
So the gate will be all the way out at the street then? How do you manage the queuing?
No, there are conditions of approval on personal storage facility projects and within the municipal code that require a certain number of vehicle stacking to accommodate people at the gate.
I misunderstood. Thank you.
Any other questions? How about a motion to introduce?
I'll move to introduce the ordinance.
We got a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. All right, at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Again, anybody wishing to speak, you merely come forward and give us your name for the record, please.
Council members?
Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Guthrie. I'm with the development team. Just wanted to answer the one question. We will have security cameras.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? All right, seeing none, how about a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So ordered.
I'll move to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. All right, we're moving right along to item 9.6. This is ordinance 1513.
This is an ordinance, 1513, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palmdale, California, amending the Antelope Valley Auto Center specific plan to modify the landscaping requirements and sign standards for the Auto Center. Specific Plan Amendment 18001. The amendments will update the landscaping theme and reflect a more desert palette and the sign standards for the dealerships. The specific plan was originally adopted to create an automotive sales center for up to 15 dealerships. The specific plan area is totally encompassed by the Trade and Commerce specific plan area. The proposed changes of the landscaping will reflect water efficiency when the existing landscaping is replaced. The replacement will happen over time as funding becomes available. This is an example of what the future roundabouts could look like. And this is an example of what the new entry monumentations will look like. As part of the updated specific plan, the auto dealers have requested that certain sign standards be updated. The changes include modifying the monument signs to increase their height and area as described on the screen. Also, a sign program will be required to ensure that the new signs demonstrate design consistency among the dealerships. The dealers have also requested that an additional 20-foot tall freestanding sign with the same sign area as proposed for the monument signs, with the addition of a digital display of up to 32 square feet. They have also requested that the secondary on-building signs be increased in height from 1 feet to 2 feet. This is what the proposed 20-foot tall freestanding sign would look like. This would be one per dealership. The proposed changes will update the look of the auto mall and increase the allowable sign area to improve site identification for the dealerships. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the amendments to the specific plan. That concludes staff's presentation. We're available for comments or questions.
Any questions for our staff?
I think this is a really good idea. As far as those monument signs and increasing the signage size, you're really not in that area unless they're there to buy a car. So this isn't going to impact like neighborhoods and homes and that type of thing. And I want us to become a much more business-friendly city. So I think that anything that we can do to increase the sales over that area would be a huge plus for our city. So thank you.
I'd like to echo what Ms. Betancourt said. This is really good. Our auto dealers are due for a fresh look or an update, especially as they're large tax revenue generators. they bring a lot of money in for us.
This helps, it's gonna help keep it up with
It
the,
does.
with what the other centers around Southern California are doing. It looks really dated, so I know the guys over there are pretty excited about moving forward.
I'll move to introduce the ordinance.
Second?
We have a motion to introduce the ordinance and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. All right, it is introduced. Let's open the public hearing. Who would like to speak? Merely wants your name for the record.
Move to close public hearing?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to close. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered.
Move to adopt ordinance number 1510.
Well, hang on. Well, that's fine. We have a motion. That's good. Second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion?
I just wanted to add that during the briefing
I'm
on
sorry.
this item,
1513, stand corrected.
I asked about those square concrete things on Carriage Way. They've been like that for years. Since we're putting emphasis on improving technology, which I understand is potentially the main access to the auto center, but there's some people accessing the auto center through Avenue Q. And if we're going to make emphasis on the entrance points to the auto dealership, I think that we should start looking at those planters to either be thrown out or do something with them, because they just look really bad to me. I don't know if you guys remember seeing those.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. It is another way to get there. and I
It's
think
another way
a lot
to
of
get in.
people do take that route.
Yeah. So I know it's something that needs to have some partnerships with the auto dealers in the city, and when it was explained to me. But maybe that's something that we need to start looking at for any near future.
There's a couple hundred of those planter boxes. It doesn't seem like that many when you're driving by, but when you start counting them up, that's quite a bit. I've talked to the auto dealers about encasing them, just making a new frame that slips over the top of the existing boxes and can give them a completely different look without a huge expense. You know, a resin or something like that that could be changed out periodically and
Can
change
they
the
be
look.
moved?
They're built
I don't
into,
know.
yeah, they're built into the infrastructure there.
What about putting a Joshua tree? We have plenty of those. Put something in it.
Well, I think what this does is this kind of resets our relationship. And now we have a kind of a goal-orientated relationship with the auto dealers. And this is going to require a capital investment. And so, yes, the list is long.
money.
The long list. So these are just beginning steps on the landscaping and the
I
signage.
say we use those planters to some of our public art.
There you
We
go.
can convert them in some way.
Something with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good idea. Right now, they serve as bollards to protect people from driving off the lots.
I wouldn't do
We'll
that.
see. We'll see what we can do.
Well, whatever we do, it's not really going to be our call. It's going to be the auto dealer's call. It's their amenity.
Yeah, I don't want to second guess. There was a lot of discussion that's gone in. This is, this ordinance change right here has taken about 2 years, which is about 1.5 years too long. And I'd like to see us, we can move forward with this. There's other stuff that comes forward, but it's a process, not an event.
Yeah.
So.
So, any other thoughts?
I'd just like to thank staff for moving on this.
Yeah.
It's important.
Agreed.
It's important for the dealerships.
All right. We have a motion
Second?
and a second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. Let's go to item 9.7. This is zone change 18-004.
Good evening, 9.7A, resolution number CC 2018-061, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palmdale, California, amending the general plan land use designation from CC Community Commercial to PF Public Facility on 3 vacant parcels located approximately 1,300 feet west of 35th Street East, south of Palmdale Boulevard. And ordinance number 1511, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palmdale, changing the zone designation from C3 General Commercial to PF Public Facility on 3 vacant parcels located approximately 1,300 feet west of 35th Street, south of Palmdale Boulevard. So In conjunction with the approval of the expansion of the Aerospace Academy, the Planning Commission recommends that the City Council approve a proposal to amend the general plan land use designation from CC Community Commercial to PF Public Facility, and change the zone designation from C3 General Commercial to PF Public Facility. Pursuant to the Palmdale Municipal Code, the C3 does not permit K through 12 schools, while the PF zone does. The proposed general plan land use designation change is required in order to change the zone to PF to accommodate the use at this location. Here is the existing general plan land use designation, showing the community commercial to the left and the public facility to the right, adjacent to the existing school. Here is the proposed general plan land use, aligning it with the public facility. Here is the existing zone designation, again showing a C3, the existing 3 vacant parcels. And here is the proposed zone designation, changing it all to public facility. So the options for the City Council are to adopt the resolution approving the general plan, adopt the ordinance approving the zone change, and to find the project is categorically exempt from environmental review. Option 2 is to continue the item and direct staff with additional information as directed. Option 3 is to deny the project, and the Planning Commission has recommended option 1. That concludes my presentation and available for any questions.
And we're okay on the resolution and ordinance as far as reading those? Okay. All right. We have a motion to introduce. Would you wish to make a motion to introduce?
I'll make the motion to introduce.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. All right. With that, we can open the public hearing to anybody that would like to speak on this project. Just need your name for the record. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Barbara Overton, and I live in the housing tract to the south of the Aerospace Academy. I'd first like to start by thanking the Public Works Traffic Department and the Aerospace Academy itself for working to keep the traffic nightmare on 35th Street somewhat manageable. I wasn't in favor of the school being located on that corner, and I still don't like it there, but the changes that they made have definitely helped with the traffic over the past year. Rezoning the empty lots in question so that the elementary school can be built on the existing school site makes sense. However, it does bring up many questions and concerns. How many students will the elementary school house? Where will the parents drop these students off? What will the hours of the elementary school be? And how much more traffic will this bring to 35th Street East? Depending on the answers to these questions, the traffic in that area will be impacted with either a large number of additional cars trying to access the school during the same before and after school hours, or it will lengthen the hours of the traffic congestion as it is currently. I'm very concerned about the potential for this horrible traffic situation to grow increasingly worse. And yes, it is horrible. When added up so far, I've counted over 3 full days of my life that have been lost due to increased traffic. During the public hearing for the original site, we were told that Q10, the only access street to that housing tract to the south, would not be impacted by the new school traffic. This is definitely proven to be false. Parents use Q10 as a drop-off zone for students and then make U-turns in the middle of the street, blocking traffic so they can get back to 35th Street. I've seen 15 to 20 cars there at one time. This definitely impacts the residents of the housing tract. Parents park in traffic lanes on 35th Street while waiting to pick up students at the end of the school day, blocking southbound traffic from merging as traffic lanes are designed. This impacts the residents of the housing tract. Students hang out on the corner of 35th Street East and Q10 waiting to be picked up after school. This impacts the residents of the housing tract, as well as being a safety issue for the students. Now that the Palmdale Boulevard intersection is open, a crossing guard now stands in the middle of southbound traffic on 35th Street East, where students don't cross the street, and stops both lanes of traffic to allow cars to turn left into the school. This impacts the residents of the housing tract and is a huge safety concern. The conditions for rezoning showed the possibility of a traffic signal being installed at Q10 and 35th Street East if it is warranted. What conditions have to be met to warrant a signal at that intersection. When a traffic signal was originally suggested at the first public hearing for the Aerospace Academy, the response was that Q10 was too close to the intersection of Palmdale Boulevard to have a light installed. It hasn't changed its space. It's still in the same place. To make the situation even more dire, Palmdale School District now uses buildings on the Oak Tree site on 35th Street East, just south of the Aerospace Academy, for district meetings. This creates further traffic and parking chaos on the street during the same hours. This rezoning should not be approved until a workable traffic solution for this area is in place, not just for the residents of the housing tract, but for the people accessing both school sites. Whether it's no parking zones, painted red curbs, better signage, traffic signal, something, it is not working the way it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Debbie Cosell, Kosel. I don't even live in this area. I am vehemently against any zoning that does not require an environmental review. I think it's outrageous that schools are exempt from having to go through the same process that a business has to go through. A suggestion possibly to the folks who live on Q10. I know over at Highland High, when that school went in, there was a street that the parents were dropping their kids off at Cottonwood and then zipping around the corner and dropping their kids off at the high school. They put in posts, metal posts in the middle of the street. It does make the street a dead-end street, and it may make it inconvenient for those parents, those homeowners on Q10 to get through. They might have to go around, but it keeps the traffic out of their neighborhood and off of their street. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's one access to it, one.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marcia Furman, and I live in Palmdale. This is very interesting. I've been to lots of council meetings and heard about the Aerospace Academy, so I'm trying to kind of work this out, what's happening here tonight. I think earlier, the city was asked to give its blessing to a possible $440 million bond that the aerospace may work out themselves for development and things like that. Now we're looking at a rezoning of an area across the street from the Aerospace Academy for them to possibly build an elementary school. So I'm thinking, are these two things related? Like if they get the money and we don't rezone, we don't rezone, does that mean they don't get their elementary school? So I'm just kind of, as somebody that doesn't know anything, kind of mulling this around and seeing how these things are possibly interlocked.
They are interlocked.
Okay, that's good.
Financing is important.
Okay.
And it's really the same side of the street. It's not separated by a street. It's
Okay.
on the same street.
But it is would allow them to, if this was rezoned and if they got their money act together, then they possibly could. But if we don't rezone or it doesn't go through, then they would be looking someplace else to put their elementary school that was zoned appropriately for them to put a school or something like that. Okay, thanks.
All right, who else would like to speak?
Good evening. Great to see everyone. Laura Herman, headmaster, Palmdale Aerospace Academy. Just here to answer any questions that you might have.
So what are we going to do about traffic?
Oh my goodness, we are going to continue to work hard and make it better. It has improved. Since the first day of school last year, we've learned a lot.
Right.
So it's much better than it was. It's not perfect. There's no question about it. So we're still looking for ways to improve it. And we're still working with our friends at the city who are helping us with that. I expect to be working with law enforcement as well because
I think at some point the engineering runs out of solutions and it becomes an enforcement issue.
Exactly, and we're ready to be supportive of that effort as well. It
That is
always can get better. We know it always can get better.
This dynamic is not unique It's at every single school in our city, because it seems like every parent now drives their kid to school.
It's the pickup, it's the drop off.
Well, but it's going to create a challenge for us to do better. And maybe we start looking at some of the mitigation we used at Highland. And yes, we did block that street off because that's what it was required. It may require us to do something along those lines here. But I have confidence we will figure that out.
Yeah, we haven't stopped thinking about it, we really haven't.
Can I make a suggestion on Avenue Q10 for those residents? I know the permanent boulders or posts on the street don't work because everybody says when we're getting or get out. But I just went to Pasadena to watch a game, and I noticed that the city of Pasadena put a condition on the Super Bowl to block access to non-residents on the internal streets. Would you be willing to do the same thing for temporary blocks or those bar with posts on it to hold it on Avenue Q10 during drop-off and pick-up hours so that non-residents don't have to come in this way on Q10 to drop their kids off? If you were to put a barrier on Q10 during the morning or the afternoon, that will prevent parents from going in Q10, dropping off, and doing the crazy things to turn around. And that will allow for the residents here to exit without having to fight traffic for parents dropping their kids off. I know that you have cross guards on Palmdale Boulevard and 35th, but if you were to do that here on Q10, just block it during drop-off and pickup.
I think I would really want to sit with city engineering and make sure that we are allowed to enforce that, and then I would want to know from law enforcement that that's acceptable, and with those two pieces in place, absolutely.
Well, I suggest that they talk to Pasadena because they do it.
Don't you have some issues with people coming in from the backside accessing the school though?
There's only one way in off of Q10 and out into the neighborhood.
No, but I mean for pedestrian purposes. So if the kids weren't allowed to come out onto the Q10 side.
Oh, there's no way for them to get out. Occasionally they hop the fence and we try to discourage that. But there's no gate there for them.
And
it's only in the front.
These two schools will have a staggered start time,
Correct.
I understand.
That's correct.
Now, it doesn't take away the issue because it kind of lengthens the impact, but it will hopefully manage it as far as the peak.
Well, and keep in mind that many of the students at the elementary school, which will be, in the neighborhood of 600 students, many of those will be siblings of our current students. So you're not adding cars.
Right.
This is one family now bringing more.
So, Mr. Curti, could we have traffic talk to the master to see if that's...
They've been in constant
Oh my goodness,
communication.
we're buddies. I will make a call.
To block
Absolutely.
temporarily.
I'll make a call.
If we block, we're gonna have to give the residents of that neighborhood like a window sticker. to
And
let
we had
them
talked about that
in,
before.
so we can't block the residents from getting down the
Correct.
street.
But we
Those are
can,
easily to remove. They're very light
Right.
devices. It's just push them over. When a resident wants to get out, they just get out.
Okay, so we're gonna have to somebody staff there and move it out of the way for them?
Yeah,
But
the same way they stop
here's
somebody
things
at
like,
the-
oh, I live here, and you have.
That's right.
You're gonna have to have.
I know you tried that at one point, and you guys got bit for that.
Yeah.
We did,
Yeah.
which is why I want to make sure we're all on the same page.
I think this has to be a coordinated effort.
Exactly.
And yes, this could be an option, but there may be other options that we can employ to make it better.
But I'm happy to talk about it, absolutely.
Well, I think also, what we talk about is that usually the first couple weeks of school, the deputies kind of let it all settle down before they get in there. But there may need to be a directed patrol back there because the double parking shouldn't be
Of course
allowed.
not.
Blocking driveways. I mean, my family gets a ticket for that,
We
blocking
would
their
make
own
a call,
driveways.
so-
Well, how can people block other people's driveways,
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Other questions?
You should look at, when the architects start looking at design too, how do you better cue the cars coming in and coming out of there?
Well, we finally got it to where it moves, so I think we've found what's optimal, but we are going to look at it again, because there's always some better ways to do it, I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, last call. Yes.
So, are you saying if this zone doesn't go through, that it kills the other project?
Well, if you don't zone change, you can't build.
So you can't get your $40 million deal if,
Right.
so I guess you guys are gonna pass it.
Well,
I mean, aren't they kind of related, so shouldn't you table this, because you tabled the other one? To see,
well, if we wanted to, we could do that, but that's if there's no option that can satisfy our need to improve the traffic in that area. And I'm convinced there is. I don't think we've hit every possibility.
I live off of this, and the traffic's terrible.
Oh yeah, every school is this way. Every school.
But that's what we pay our Belarus for.
Yeah.
For that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to know if this is related to the Arrow and the 40 million. So if you guys, basically, if you don't pass this, then the other one's automatically dead. You won't need your financial person or anyone, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily dead, they
might be
try to
looking
find
for
another
another spot.
site.
Actually, your general plan shows commercial on that property. The intensity is probably not much different if it were fully developed.
Except you get the traffic all day then.
Well, you get it all day,
Yeah,
but
you could have a 7-Eleven or AM, PM or something like that.
Yeah, but it's not as dramatic as 6.
But it is, it's gonna be every day, all day long, weekends, everything else too, so it's, it's a balance.
You gotta take a look at, you gotta talk to traffic engineers and have them explain to you these numbers, because we deal with Esperanza all the time, and right down the street, I got Hillview, and we got Rancho Vista, so we got 3 schools all right next to each other over there. And it's, it's like 20 minutes in the morning and 45 minutes in the afternoon. It's a nightmare. And
what it is they go down all of the, the dead end street, and they're fast, and they're new, they're not paying attention. And I don't feel that your crossing guard is to cross students, not to stop traffic so people can turn.
Right.
And I think that has to be brought to their attention.
thank you.
I think we need to keep in mind too that the legislature is anticipating changing the starting times of our public school students too, so
8:30.
that's gonna change a lot of
I think that's
our-
high school.
our stuff.
I think high school, is it middle?
It's gonna be, I think, middle and high school.
Middle and high.
That's what they're
And how about just
anticipating.
going to Veterinary?
It's on the governor's desk
But,
right now.
all these things will have to be taken into consideration.
Who else would like to speak on this item? I see a gentleman standing up here who would capture. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Barry Munns. I'm one of the engineers working with the Aerospace Academy on this project. I would like to clarify some comments about the traffic signal. There was a question asked about that, and through the conditional use permit, there was a condition imposed on this project that we would study the traffic counts and look and see what the traffic is doing, and we're doing a warrant study. Now that school is open, we can see what the traffic patterns look like, and we're studying that, and we're looking at delays in turn movements, we're looking at pedestrian crossings, we're looking at the overall picture. Based on that, there are 9 or 10 different things that we will look at that could potentially warrant a traffic signal be installed. We're not saying a traffic signal is warranted. We're not saying a traffic signal is not warranted. At this point in time, now that school is open and we can see what the traffic patterns look like, we're going to study that thoroughly, and hopefully through that process, we can come up with recommendations to the city engineer as to how best to mitigate what issues we might find through this process. And the city engineer obviously is deeply involved in this process, and they're looking at steps, future steps, not just traffic signal. There's issues about traffic using Q10 that shouldn't be on Q10. How do we restrict that? If we go with no parking, we get law enforcement involved, and we start enforcing.
All right, who else? All right, seeing none, how about a motion to close?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. All right, here we are. Discussion? Motion?
I'll move to approve.
Got a motion to approve?
Second.
And a second? Discussion? Questions?
I think we definitely want to have a coordinated effort, keep our eye on the traffic, the parking, and do everything we can to mitigate the impact for those residents.
Absolutely.
I think we had a good discussion here today.
Okay, anything else? Got a motion and a second? going to call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, let's go to item 10, new business. Discussion, possible action. Is anybody going to make a report?
The ghost report.
The ghost report. I saw Saint walk up, I go, here it is.
Good evening, Council. Resolution 2018-67, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palmdale supporting the extension of the temporary protected status program. This was an issue that was brought to us by Council. Councilman.
Yeah. I asked for the council support in having this resolution placed on the agenda in support of the TPS program, temporary status protection. That applies to some Central American countries, El Salvador, Honduras, and some countries in the Caribbean islands. The Senate and the Assembly in California have actually put a resolution in support of the TPS. The issue is that the current administration put a stop to this temporary protection status program. And again, I ask for us to see if we could consider supporting this in a symbolic manner. It's a federal issue, I realize that, and I'm sure that all of you do. But I think that we need to support our community, who is a hardworking community. They are already here. They're working, they're contributing to our economy. And I just wanted to have this item on the agenda and ask for the support of this resolution. You guys did a good job of putting the resolution, drafting the resolution, model on some other cities that have actually adopted this type of resolutions. And again, the state level and the Assembly have already actually adopted this type of resolution for the TPS. That's all I have to say. If you guys have any comments?
Can you explain to those people that don't know exactly what the temporary protected status
Sure.
program is?
This program came through a hurricane that hit El Salvador pretty bad and some other Central American countries in the Caribbean. The government at the time put this temporary protection status program for those citizens of those countries to be able to get a work permit in the United States. There's quite a few countries. I know El Salvador is one of them, Honduras, Nicaragua.
There's 6 in all.
Yeah, 6 in all, yeah.
And this is usually countries that have had
Disasters,
disasters,
hurricanes.
a huge magnitude.
Yeah, there was, I guess, the deadliest one in the Central America and the Caribbean at the time. I believe it was 94 or 98, I'm not sure what the year was. But that's how this program came about. The current administration at the time saw the importance of having those citizens in this country have a work permit so that they could provide their families in those countries the financial support they needed to come out after that disaster. That's how this program was placed, and one of the other programs the current administration got rid of is the TPS program. I believe there's a couple of countries that are still eligible to continue to renew their work cards, green cards, and I believe that the deadline is coming up early next year, I believe. Again, it's a symbolic gesture on our part to show that we support our community that was affected or is going to be affected by the termination of this program.
And just to add, we're talking about 437,000 people in the U.S., 80,000 in California.
Yeah.
So this,
Significant.
while it's symbolic, it does affect people in the state.
Right.
Well, I think it's also important that we stand by our residents. I understand we're not going to change this issue. This federal issue is not going to be decided by whatever the city of Palmdale does. That's not the point. The point is, we do have residents here that are here now, and I believe unity is the strong point here. There's a huge discussion on immigration, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lightning rod in the nation. And yes, our federal elected officials seem to be unable to move this issue. I'd like to see them make a decision. I'd like to see them draw the line, whatever it is, so we can know as a community where we stand and where we're going as a nation. We just don't seem to be able to do that. And it's just very frustrating. So I get the need to support our residents. That's really why I'm here to support this issue. But knowing there is no guarantee here. I mean, the federal government has said this program is going to end, and that could create some division, obviously. And there's nothing we can do about that if that's what happens. But we can stand with our residents today and say, we're with you in making a request to at least consider extending this program. And I get, there's some areas that are very, very dangerous. It's not quite ready for people to return, but that's not really my call. It's a federal issue. We're going to have to come to grips with it. The federal government's going to have to make a call. Because this thing, we've been kicking this can down the road for 20 years. And all it does is get worse. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
What this is really going to do is even further the issues that we have in separating families. If those that are able to get their work permits through the TPS program, they may have to go. But what about their kids, their children?
Yeah.
They are U.S. citizens.
These are folks that were here legitimately, got the okay to be here legitimately, and have established themselves in everybody's community. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know if they're in the right spot with this. This is really problematic. You got to get these things solved, and depending on the way the wind blows, you just can't tell people, come on, we're gonna work this out, and then say never mind later.
Well, it's just inaction. That's all it is. It's just inaction. They're afraid to, I guess, make the call.
Well, I think it's also being used as to leverage other things, and I don't think that's the right move either. But I can't. We're not working at the federal level, but all I can say is how it impacts our residents and our neighbors and those families and the people at the places that we do business with. It's going to be, this whole thing's very disruptive. So you got to get it solved.
All right.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. I'm a little concerned about this because we're not asking the public's thoughts. But I'm going to ask the public's thoughts. Anybody wish to make comment? This would be your opportunity to do so.
Steve St. Pierre. Is something you want to get up here to talk about this? I'm not too familiar with this STP program. I wonder how can I find out a little bit more about it before we pass it or do whatever, or is that something that you're just asking for comments and that's it, you're going to pass it anyway?
Well, maybe I can explain.
May or may not.
Well, we can't change federal law. We're just giving a symbolic support to our residents. So we can't change the law at this level.
Your
But we are
congressman would be a good place to go to get a better feel for this program.
Yeah.
That's our federal rep.
Just to give you a little bit more background, this was in 1990 that Congress enacted the Temporary Protected Status, TPS, and it was granted to nations from designated countries affected by armed conflict and natural disasters who are already in the United States.
But this was 1990, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they've been here since, and all of a sudden it's like, never mind.
Yeah, so I mean,
Well, the issue, you have children born as American citizens, and their parents may not. It's the same issue as the Dreamers. This council did a resolution supporting the Dreamers, basically asking the federal government, make a decision.
Yeah.
So
Because all we're doing is perpetuating
divisiveness. Yeah.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Could I have your name for the record?
My name is Martha Connor, and I'm also, I born in one of those countries, and I'm also a TPS recipient. I've been living here for quite a while, and it does affect me and 13 countries. So if you do that resolution, as you say, it might not change what they want to do, but it helps because they're going to see that the city of Palmdale is actually supporting the departments and the communities that live here. And if anybody want to know more about the TPS, they could go to the National TPS Alliance, and they're on Facebook or TPS, and they will know more about us. We are working people. People say we're criminals and stuff like that, but we're not. I've been working since I have TPS for the past 20 years. I've been able to go to school. I have a good job. My kids live here, and we have a good life here. And things are not easy in my country. I'm from Honduras. There's 13 countries. It's not only me, but there's a lot of people who need TPS, and they should find a pathway for us to be a resident. And they haven't found that. People say, "Oh, we want to be citizens." No, we want to go through the process. It's been 20 years, and now with this administration, the Trump administration, they just decide to take it away. So I'm very thankful that you're trying to do a resolution here in Palmdale. I'm excited, and I'm really happy about it.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I think it's such a different group than what most people are envisioning. These are a group of people that suffered hardships, and we said, with open arms, come over here, we'll give you a permit to work. And all this time they've been paying taxes and being good residents and raising their kids and doing good things for our country. And now all of a sudden, we're going to put the brakes on and say, yeah, we appreciate all that you've done while you were here, but it's time for you to go home. In the meantime, they've got kids that are American citizens who we've paid with our tax money to educate, and all of that training and education is just going to be just
Well, think about 1990, some of them may have grandkids here.
Yeah, that's possible. So this is a whole different, immigration issue than most people are aware of, and it needs to be handled in a different way.
You would think, if anything, this one would be the no-brainer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi there. Darlene Davis. I just wanted to ask on the TPS, did I understand that they do not have the ability to be able to do the regular citizenship process?
I don't know the specifics on that, but I believe that that's how the program was created, for them to be able to obtain a work permit so that they could work here and economically support their families back home while the country came up after those disasters. I don't know if the program specifies that they cannot get citizenship. For me, I can tell you, when I came here, when I was 15 years old, went through the process, I became a citizen after I was a permanent resident. 5 years, I believe, was the time frame for the way that I was able to apply for citizenship. There's so many different programs, and INS has a lot of different programs. I don't know if through TPS they would be eligible to apply for citizenship, but the idea was for them to be able to get a work permit.
Our staff might have an answer.
Okay.
So I'll just read, I'll sound important, but actually Sam did all the research. So 2 points to let you know. Individuals granted TPS are not considered to be permanent residents, and TPS does not provide a path to lawful permanent residence or citizenship.
So this is really a temporary program to get people out of an area in crisis, give them safety here, and then there is a point where they're going to say, okay, time to go home. Well, that's what the federal government has done. But again, we got this issue with dreamers, with kids that have not been solved. And so it's kind of a haphazard approach. Where does the rubble present itself?
Right.
In local government. Because here's where people pay for lack of decisions at other stages of government. And it's frustrating for us.
Well, I'm asking because I actually have dual citizenship. And so wanted to get clarification because I know for the other country that I was considering, they had specific guidelines. You want to come back, there's certain things that you'll be allowed to have, things that you will have to wait. This won't be happening there, these are just the rules of, going to become a citizen in another country. Do we know how many number of TPS residents we have here?
437,000.
No, in our city.
I do not know. I know the stats, the we look up, there's 80,000 in California.
Right. Well, I guess
We don't
I'm
have the
working.
breakdown.
I only asked because you're doing a resolution, which is, it's pretty much a gesture, right? It's a gesture. It would have been nice to know how many were in our area.
Maybe Salva knows the number. Felix is here from the Salva organization.
14,000 in the city?
In the Antelope Valley.
Maybe the Antelope Valley.
Antelope Valley.
Antelope Valley, okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. All right.
That's more than I would have thought. Thanks for that info, yeah.
Anybody else? All right, with that, it's not a public hearing, we just wanted to hear what you thought. Okay, here we are at the decision. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
And a second?
Yes.
All right, time to, unless somebody has questions, concerns? Or say all in favor, say aye. Aye. Who is against? Being none, passes unanimously. Okay, we're at item 11 now, special report.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Finance was asked to engage an independent consultant to review our park development impact fees. The draft report presented to you tonight is a preliminary calculation of fees needed to collect to maintain the current level of public park services as population rises over the time. The fees in the draft report is the maximum amount legally allowed to collect. Tonight, we're not asking you to adopt these fees, but we are presenting the draft as a special report and just to ask from City Council feedback and direction as we move forward with looking at these fees.
So, Mayor and Council, a few things to put out there. One is that we wanted to get kind of the raw data information out that the consultant put together in regard to potential park fees. As Karen said, this is the maximum that can be charged for park fees. And so it by no means sets the park fee bar, but it does show, based on the consultant's estimate of future need in regard to total population and all the other assumptions put into the report, what we would need in regard to facilities, land, et cetera, and what those costs could be. We're going to spend time with the consultant fleshing out some of those assumptions, looking at everything from assumptions on land value to persons per unit to total park acreage, even to our estimate of total build-out population, to get a complete handle on our park fee information. And the next step is going to be look at what's our competition, what does the market look like for park fees in regard to the other cities that essentially we compete with for those development dollars. And also get this out to the development community to make this public so that they can start poking holes in it as well and giving us their feedback and information. And so this is kind of the beginning of a process, but in order to introduce this to the council and to the public, we wanted to present this tonight. I'm certain as we start narrowing some of these things down, that this will be the subject of a future workshop with the council, that will spend some real quality time digging into some of these numbers, and at the end, come up with some specific park fee recommendations for single family attached and mobile home dwelling units. And right now we also have in our code an exemption for park fees for senior housing. And so those are some of the things that we want to look at. I just want to get this introduced so that the council we could start getting kind of comments back in regard to anything that you've seen so far in looking at the report. And then I will work with staff, with the development community, and do research on the other cities in regard to how do we kind of flesh out and narrow down what proposed future park fees should be. And I think the comments I've gotten from the developers is that our per bedroom fee structure kind of inhibits development, certainly on the multifamily end, and the overall total fees, particularly in multifamily or attached housing, is high compared to our competitors. And so this is the first step to really look at that and go to a per unit fee, so we're not necessarily penalizing projects that have a higher number of bedrooms. The other thing to look at is if we want to do high amenity multifamily development projects where we're requesting and requiring the developer to put in additional amenities to keep people there on the site, recreating and so forth, then should there be an offset in regard to the park fees for that? And so there's going to be a whole menu of items to look at in regard to everything from the assumption side to the competitiveness side to kind of the flexibility side of how do we have park fees that are flexible and dynamic and reflect what we really want to accomplish going forward. At the same time, we still do have certainly a huge need to construct the parks that we want to construct and reconstruct, and then also the ability, which really doesn't come out of these fees, but to operate those parks that we have built and are going to build.
So I think that you're on the right track here, and I think that when you start talking about amenity-laden, multi-family or multi-unit types of projects, PUDs, planned unit developments, and HOA-supported amenity features, like for some of the communities that we're taking a look at, there ought to be some method of a sliding scale here to offset that, because if they're creating that, it's going to reduce that impact externally from the project. I think that's absolutely fair. They'll still be utilizing regional facilities and things like that. But who's going to go over to the park to use the pool if they've got their own pool in their neighborhood? And if they got their own rec center and if they've got their own bowling alley or something like that.
I'd have to agree with Mr. Hoffbauer that definitely the way we're going to start developing is going to change, especially as we dig into the general plan. So there should be a sliding scale or a different option for these developers.
Yeah, we want to be competitive, and I don't think we've been competitive for a long time. Honestly, I think we need to scrap this and start it from scratch, something that's fair and equitable for everyone. I also don't want to force developers into creative development, meaning, in other countries, people are taxed or fined based on rooms per house, and so they would count a closet as a room, and therefore rooms have no closets. I mean, there's a lot of ways around different things, and I want to have a good quality home here, and I don't want to force the developer's hands into doing less than what we want because our fees are off the chart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, in supporting those parks, those facilities, and the existing ones, I think that I think some method of kind of wrapping them into the LMD program or something like that might be a way to take a look at it, because I know you're auditing those numbers right now, and a lot of people I've talked to have said, listen, if my LMD is here and we're finding out that there's a 10 or 20% surplus on that, because when you figure it out, maybe that really could go to helping maintain or create or improve that neighborhood park that those LMDs are. So just one of those thoughts. Maybe that's something we can look at, that kind of a thing too.
Yeah. So from what you've been hearing from developers, is it just the park development fees that are high for them? What about traffic and public?
We're going through all of those. This is a particular need because we're seeing multifamily development emerge. It's coming to our community. Here is an inhibitor, is the park impact.
That's what I asked. Is it just the park fees they're interested in looking at right now?
We went through the traffic impact fees a couple of years ago, and by relooking at that model, we dropped our traffic impact fees by about 60%, 40 to 60, depending on what the development was. And so this is kind of the beginning of that similar look. We're not going to look at all like drainage impact fees and those things until we get into the general plan, because we really won't know what our traffic and drainage and.
This is
other
ripe right
FEs.
now.
But this one, yeah.
Well, this is ripe if we want to see multifamily, and I think we do. Why are we doing this? Why have we done this? Because we set a very high bar in Palmdale for beautiful parks with amenities. And guess what? We got the best darn parks in the valley, or in this city. Now, that was a result of a general plan goal. Well, I believe that. Maybe I'm biased. But the fact is, when you establish that bar, you run your fees now to support that bar. And that's what we've done. To a point where we've inhibited, again, the multifamily, the mixed-use development that we all want today. So that doesn't work. We've got to break that back down. And sure, you're still going to a regional park. You may have a pool in your neighborhood, but you may have other amenities you want to go elsewhere. So I would never absolve impact fees, because I think you have operations and you got again a park network. But certainly this issue we can beat it up pretty good and come up with something that works. And basically we're looking to incentivize again this multifamily mixed use trend that we see coming. We know it's coming because we hear it from our young people. This is what they want, the lifestyle they're looking for. So we got to find a better way. And I think that's exactly what I'm hearing from Jim Pertee. We recognize that.
Yeah, we're looking at the other communities that we're competing with, and where they have a different scale on the fee structure, but they seem to have decent parks too. So how are they doing that? Well, maybe it's a fact that if you've got that additional development that's going on, now you're bringing in that money. But it's a balancing act. If you have those fees set so high that you're scaring everybody off, then you get 100% of nothing.
Right, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got 100% of the single family. That's where Palmdale was the last 20 years. It's all single family development, and families and parks are important.
So are we looking at just doing the multifamily fees or single family as well, or?
We're looking at all of them. So right now what we have is the raw data that the consultants come up with as far as total acreage of parks and so forth. There's a pretty extensive analysis in the report that gives us a starting point. And so now we can take that information and really flesh out some of these areas where we need more flexibility, and then bring it back to the council or to a council workshop and talk about, does the council want 100% cost recovery in all these areas, or are there areas that we want to incentivize by getting maybe an 80% or 90% or whatever cost recovery that makes sense and is competitive with the rest of the market, so we can encourage the types of development we're looking for, and do it across the board so we're not speccing a specific project. As soon as we do that, that then generates the requirements for affordable housing and things like that.
No, definitely it's a different time, and things have changed since those park fees were developed in Palmdale.
It's going to help make us more business friendly too, and that's what we're after.
Not only business friendly, but also keeping into account the desires of the new generation.
Yeah.
They don't want a single family home. They don't want to.
And we need housing. I mean, we've got all these big aerospace contracts coming in. We've got to have a place for these people to live.
Well, that's what's driving all this multifamily, ladies and gentlemen, is this aerospace. It's coming, and we need to be ready.
Not everyone wants to take care of a front yard and a backyard.
Well, I'd rather wouldn't if I didn't have to either. But, so that's the issue, and on a bigger scale, I think it's part of the general plan, but we're seeing pressure now for some of the multifamily. So it's kind of moving ahead of the general plan, and so it makes these kinds of discussions necessary.
Okay.
What else we got?
Well, I think we may have had members from the public that wanted to comment on this.
We do have a call for public comments. Are we ready?
Ready.
Come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. City Manager. If I may, I've got a special bonus handout that is salient to the topic at hand. What I did want to address is fine. I'm with the Epic Companies in West Hills, California, and while I did not travel all the way from Peru here this evening, being on the Southern California freeways made it feel almost like I had. That said, we've conducted business, as many of you know, here in the city of Palmdale and the Antelope Valley for just about 40 years, and we know a little bit about the fee structure and history in the city. I'm going to switch to turbo chat because I want to cover this real quickly and let you walk through it while we go. I know I don't have much time. Not long ago, as we talked about the City of Palmdale City Council, you had the foresight to recognize that the then existing high traffic impact fees had the adverse effect of severely stifling new retail commercial development. You then had the courage to adjust that traffic fee to a fair and realistic amount in order to facilitate win-wins for the city, public and private sectors. As was the case then, we're in the exact same condition today, right now, applicable today with the currently excessive high multifamily park fee amount. I'm going to put a little bit of meat on the bones to the discussion that you rightfully, correctly had a moment ago to add a few facts that I think are salient and helpful. The city's general plan residential housing element, as you know, acknowledges a gaping market supply shortage, and we're all aware of the existing product demand for high-profile employers that make this valley run, who are seeking quality, modern, amenity-rich multifamily housing for their existing and prospective commuter-based employees. You can go on and on, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, the rest of the Plant 42 gang, NASA, Kinshasa, the Medical Center, et cetera, et cetera. We know that this housing also assists the city in complying with their California HCD and SCAG housing requirements for non-subsidized market rate housing. We know that this kind of housing allows the city and its key employers to appeal to that next generation of high per capita income employees that you just talked about. In short, to help to retain and bring in the best and the brightest, people that are earning, frankly, more than today's family per capita median incomes in town. These are the city's next leaders, homeowners, property and sales taxpayers. These are the people we want to get in here and to keep here. This housing, we know, helps reduce employer costs as well, as this will be far cheaper for employers and much more preferred as a living arrangement to employees than temporary cramped motel, hotel living acts as a long sought after sales tool for the employers as well. We know that this high demographic occupancy housing will feed the valley's mall, power centers, area retailers, restaurants, service providers, etc., all of which add for the long term to the sales and property tax base of the city. Additional benefits obviously get people off the freeway, air quality, quality of life, cost of living, and by the way, jobs, 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 not just during construction of the building, but for the kinds of facilities in the multifamily realm that are high amenity that we're talking about. It takes people to run them and operate them. So therefore, when we add it all up, it's true. The park fee for multifamily housing is a huge obstacle right now in the development of multifamily housing in this city. There's no question about it. By way of specifics, as I have in front of you, the current park fee per multifamily bedroom is $4,670 as it exists today. If we convert that to what an average size unit will be, which is by all measures and studies that we have seen, including by Coin Development Corp on one of our projects, an average of 1.45 bedrooms per dwelling unit. On that basis, under the current ordinance, you'd be looking at around $7,000 a unit existing park fee today. For easy reference, the neighbor to the north we love so dearly is about $3,159 for that same 1.5 bedroom unit. Again, $3,159 versus $7,000, not exactly comparable. As you know, a number of us in the multifamily development community have consistently represented for the past year and a half that the development of this much-needed premier market-rate multifamily housing in the city requires a reduction in park fees to a level that's more like $1,500 to $2,000 per bedroom. Not a mere wish or a grab out of the sky, rather simple math based on all of the development variables ranging from construction costs, finance costs, infrastructure, all the other city impact fees that you mentioned, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, if the existing fee was reduced by an amount equal to not greater than 50% of what it is right now, which would roughly be $2,320, well, a little bit less, $2,325 in round numbers per bedroom. If we were able to get to that level from where we are now at $4,670, Coin Development has assured us, in fact, that they are barely, with assistance from us as the landowner developer as well, barely able to adjust their project pro formas to accommodate such a park fee amount in our master plan project that you know we're working on at Rancho Vista and 15th West across from the mall. That translates at 1.45 bedrooms in their community to $3,371 a unit at $23.25 per bedroom, $33.71 a unit. Again, far lower than the existing just under $7,000 that we're looking at under today's ordinance. What does that mean? It means for that project, $1,025,000 at that 50% level that could be in the city's coffers, and $1,025,000 is a whole lot of bucks. 100% of 50% is a whole lot better than 100% of zero, the way I look at it. It's clear that under any continuation of the existing ordinance at the current level for park fees, let alone any proposed increase, which this first draft, in fact, equates to when you really do the numbers on it, not the same, higher. Let alone to provide best-in-class residential, high-quality workforce housing, we're not going to get there. It's game over if we leave it where it is, certainly if we raise it even worse, which is the result we're experiencing today and the same result we've experienced for at least the last decade. It's no accident. So therefore, in as much as the city had the foresight to adjust the traffic impact fee to a fair and realistic amount not that long ago, as Jim said, about 60%, the time is now. And it is an urgency, frankly. I mean, we can't workshop it to death for another 6 months or even 3 months, to be honest. The time has really come, if we're serious, for the city to exhibit that same foresight to reduce that multifamily park fee amount by 50%, in order to facilitate a win-win-win for the citizens, the employers, and the rest of the private sector in Palmdale. And the reason I say now, not to be an alarmist or an urgency monger, but the fact is, in the current market cycle, where we are, we know we're staring down the pipe at further rate increases imminently, interest rates. We know we're looking at construction costs that continue to skyrocket. And we know that the next recession, by anybody's guesstimations, is not that far from being around the corner, a couple of years out. And we know that economic activity in Palmdale tends to take a long time to recover when those events happen. And I'd argue that we're certainly not fully even out of the last one at this point in time. So in addition to everything else I've mentioned so far and that you've already addressed here tonight, I would make note that the smaller sizes themselves of multifamily bedrooms and the occupancy counts of those multifamilies at 1.45 on an average, because again, nobody's going to build at the rents that can be attained today in Palmdale. No one's building 3-bedroom units. It's going to be 1s and 2s, pretty much split evenly. That's how we get to the 1.45, 1.5. It can't economically work yet otherwise. So we know that the smaller size and bedroom count of units versus single families of the same size, even with the same bedroom counts, it adds up to less occupants per bedroom, less park use intensity and frequency. We know that the age demographic, which you just mentioned, young working millennials, single and married without children, some empty nesters, versus single families and the occupants of those bedrooms, again, less park use intensity, less frequency of use for the multis in those same park facilities. We know that the on-site amenities for the premier market rate multifamily projects we envision, such as the one we are contemplating, are far in excess of what exists for non-master plan traditional single-family residence communities here in town. That in turn equals, again, much less park use frequency and intensity. Examples, as you mentioned, our project is going to include clubhouse, meeting rooms, internet cafes, pools, spas, pocket parks, barbecue areas, exercise areas, yada, yada, yada. They're not going even to the regional parks too often, in all candor. So in conclusion, each and all of these items that I've mentioned justifies the case, in my view, for at least a 50% reduction in the current City of Palmdale multifamily park fee amount. I think it would be fair, reasonable, would allow for much needed housing to be built in the city. Anything less than that is only going to result in the continued absence of these kinds of projects, a very regrettable outcome, I believe, and therefore the time to act is now. If we're worst case so wildly successful that we see so many of these projects, by the way, to answer the fear that one might have, we can always, if we're that successful, we can always sit down and revisit, because rents would have risen to allow for costs to be slightly higher as well. Fine, let's have a success, and we can always come back, and if it's working so great, we can raise them again later on. Right now, 100% of nothing is what you've got, and 100% of 50% is a whole lot more.
Very good.
I'm happy to answer any questions or address any comments. If
I think we're gonna go down that hole.
I even have an extra special bonus handout for you. I wanted to leave you with. I won't bore you with going through it again. Jim has it already. This addresses, which you may or may not already have in your packet, the draft initial cut of the third-party consultant's study. There are numerous fatal flaws in that study, unfortunately, that need to be worked on, and I'm highlighting what those are. But there's work to be done. The development community is more than willing to be an active part of it, but we do urge that we do this collaboratively as quickly as possible. Projects are getting ready to bail.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
So I'm a little bit of a Johnny-come-lately here on this, but I'm curious, as far as our single-family dwellings, other than Anaverdi, do we have any other plans for any other development for single-family homes?
Yes.
Do we?
Citywide.
Citywide? So it's not what he's talking about here with all these multi-family
Well, this is
dwellings.
one element of a housing matrix. It could be lots of different. Yeah.
Okay, because what's the proportion? I mean, as far as we're looking at single families?
Sir, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but that's a general plan question that certainly our staff could probably give you a better idea if you wanted to come meet with them or call them and ask that same question. They'd have to do some analysis.
Okay.
To be able to answer your question.
Okay. All right, so one other question I have as far as our water, are we making any plans for putting smart meters in our waters like we would have for the electric?
Well, that would be a good question for the water district, because they do.
So that's not something.
No, that's something we could collaborate with. We could make as a requirement for development, but the water district is really, that's their game, is to wheel water and deliver it to our homes and to meter it.
Okay, because I was hearing a report that might be headed that way, and then they're going to put a limit on how much water that we can use, and then once that water is used in that month, that they would go ahead and kick you out of the house because say that your house is unsafe. I don't know how true all of this is.
That's not like something coming out of the legislature. What is going to happen is you cannot develop unless you have your water entitlement, period.
What's that mean?
You cannot develop unless you have your entitlement for water.
A well?
No, well, it could be a well, it could be imported water, it could be state project water, it could be groundwater, it could be, doesn't matter. You have got to have your water entitlement before you're going to be allowed
And
to
developers are having to go out and find that water. It used to be they just go knock on the water company's door and say, hey, I want to put in a bunch of meters. And they go, great, where's the water coming from? So they've got to develop that, and with the pumping rights, with the lawsuit adjudication, groundwater adjudication, the pumping levels, everybody's is reduced. So you got to kind of, they've got to go out and find it. They've got to either buy it from somebody that isn't using it, they got to buy it from someplace else and pump it down the aqueduct. But they have to come in with that, not just will serve, but how it's going to be served. So.
All right, thank you. And thank you guys for your service. I really appreciate it. You guys don't get enough credit.
Yeah, thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Briefly. My name is Mark McGoy, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, many of whom I've known for years. I got involved in commercial development in the city of Palmdale in 1989 with the Antelope Valley Mall. We followed that with the Target Palmdale Marketplace in 1999, Destination 08, which is the Super Walmart Kohl's Sam Club Center in 2003. And then the last major project was the Home Depot Target Center on the east side of town at 47th and R. And during that 29-year span, I probably brought before the Planning Commission and the City Council dozens and dozens of projects, none of which had advanced without the support of city staff. And I'm pledging tonight my commitment to work with the staff, the Planning Commission, and the City Council with regard to a development opportunity at Rancho Vista and 15th, which will be a tremendous amenity to the city. I can validate Coin Development as a company I have worked with for over 5 years, and they are professional, respected, well-capitalized, as is the commercial developer that could bring an upscale grocery store to the city. So I'm excited to be here and the opportunity to re-immerse myself and to complete what has been 18 months of diligent work to tee up what will be a very attractive project for the city. Thank you.
Very good. Who else would like to speak? All right. Seeing none. How about direction? Do you need more direction? Or looking for direction? I think we're kind of all on the same page. I think we're looking to exercise the how do we get into it? Let's start talking.
The fee level should be appropriate.
We want to look into revising these fees, right?
Right, so we're looking to revise those, and we're looking to make sure that we have fees that are defensible. And so we're starting at that high point of, here's the level of fees we could actually defend by saying, here's our total inventory, here's our total need, et cetera. Anything below that is more easily defended, first of all.
Right.
And then secondly, it takes into account our competitors, incentivizing the market, being flexible, all those things. And so we'll come back. We can schedule a workshop before the end of the year, certainly, in regard to what do we do with the data we've been given so far and market data and some of these other kind of flexibility options, and bring something back. Certainly work with the development community. And before we bring fees like this forward, we have to notify the BIA and the chambers and all those things as well. And so we want to have a good chance to flesh this out and come up with an ordinance, a fee ordinance that makes sense and is supported both by at the staff level, at the council level, and at the public and developer level.
Well, and again, the general plan is going to give us another bite on expectation. Our residents may say, we have a different expectation. Like the last general plan they did, they elevated that park element because we wanted to make sure we had more than enough. And I'm only saying that because the process, that's part of the process. And so the public will weigh in. And what we do, I think, has to be defensible, obviously. And I think it will be. I think we've got the right formula to make this thing happen.
Let me tell you what my expectation would be and my concern with this. At the current level of development fees that we have, park development fees at $7,000 for single family, $4,670 for multifamily. From 2002 to 2016, $23 million were collected on the east side for park development. We got half a park. That's with $7,000 for multifamily. If you do half of that, what are we going to get? We're not going to get any more parks. So maybe we need to also start thinking about a park oversight committee to make sure that those fees are spent the way they're supposed to be spent. Because I still, to this day, and I've been beating the bush for this since I got elected, but $23 million collected on the east side for park development fees. We have 12 acres at Gillen. Most of it is desert landscaping, Joshua trees, and decomposed granite. And $2.5 million worth with the grant. $1.5 million worth with drainage fees. So if we're going to entertain cutting the park fees at 50%, we're not going to get the parks that we're supposed to get when the general plan was adopted.
I think some of the numbers that they're looking at are, I don't know that they're adjusted so much the single family. I don't know that.
Well, the single family is 7,000 currently today, based on what was provided to us.
Yeah, but the point is, we're going to go through all of that.
I get
ladies
the point.
And gentlemen.
I get the point. I'm just saying what my concern would be, and because of what happened, $23 million collected from the east side. We have 12 acres at Gillen, and again, it's just Joshua trees.
But you do have Dominic Missouri.
Yes, but Dominic Maseri was constructed prior to 2000, and my analysis is from 2000
And I
to
have that
2016.
in my district, so.
So
Don't get me started.
we didn't
Don't get me started.
But anyway, I get the concept. Let's look at it. I know we need to provide multifamily to the young generation, the engineers coming from the aerospace industry. I get that. But a word of caution again, $7,000 now for park development fees for single family. We got nothing on park development from 2000 to 2016. This is prior to Dominic Maseri.
Right.
Well, and we've got to look.
But that money was spread out across the city. It wasn't
Exactly.
just on the east side.
You
even
know,
though-
the answer I was given by staff, $23 million were collected from the east side and spent throughout the city.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that won't happen again.
That was life before districts.
Exactly.
Again, that's why I think we should have a park oversight committee to make sure that these things.
Well, but we do.
Where is it?
We're right here as a city council, and we're going to go through an exercise and break this stuff down.
My expectation here would be that we find that sweet spot, because right now, what are we getting for park development fees? What did we get from the Element Hotel?
There's, no park development fees from commercial hotels.
Okay, and so we're building all these hotels, and we're getting diddly squat from those, okay? And that's where all these guys are staying right now. So we start taking a look at how can we spur the condominium and the quality housing that they're looking for, because they don't want to come in, they don't want to do the lawns, they don't want to have to hire a pool boy or a cleaning lady to come in and take care of their place. They a big house, or live in a dorm type of environment, which some of them are doing right now. That's why they're living in a hotel. A lot of them have said, I would buy a condo, I'd rent an apartment, but I can't find a condo, and
doesn't exist.
Literally, any of the handful of condominium projects that are around here right now are sold before they even get on the market, because every broker out there has got people that are sitting there waiting to pick those up. So I think the expectation is that we'd be looking to try to spur some development that will bring in some funding that we aren't getting and wouldn't be getting. So
I get it. But again, our goal is long-term, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll shut up. Those millennials will have children, and they will be looking for parks at some point. So there's a balance here. We've got to be thinking, not just today, long-term. You got to go out 10, 20 years. That's what a general plan, this last general plan did, and we actually outlived it. And we basically built a mousetrap to prevent multifamily, and the fees were part of it. I get that. So I'm thinking we can come up with balance here. We can figure this out. So I'm confident we're going to get there. I think we're going to meet your expectations.
No, again, I understand the concept. I'm willing to look at it. If it's high-class multifamily that provides the amenities that these young kids are looking for, yeah, they're not going to go to the park and use the park. If they have the things that you mentioned, yeah, we can look at it and see if we can come up with the right fees to support multifamily.
All right. What else? Jim? Do you know what we were looking for?
I think I've got direction. I've got certainly a page full of notes here.
I see that.
All right. The process is really the next step. So I look forward to everybody stepping up and helping us. We'll go through this thing. We'll figure it out. All right. I think that's the end of that special report. So let's move on to item 12. And this item 12 actually takes us back now to the successor agency. We have a joint special report on our city council agenda and our successor agency agenda. So let's go now to item 12.
So, Mr. Mayor, this item is we're looking at the current city council meeting is scheduled for November 6th, which many of you may know is Election Day. And
that's right, I had a campaign.
So we thought maybe we might want to move that meeting dates potentially to November 13th in order to facilitate
like a conflict.
the candidates not paying much attention to the council meeting on the 6th, that votes are being tallied during the meeting. So staff did not pick a date, but we wanted to certainly get direction from the council in regard to what would work. And if you can take a look at your calendars and give us some feedback. Certainly November 13th would be the following Tuesday. Anything beyond that, we start getting into Thanksgiving week.
So could we look to the 13th as a possible date?
I'm good with the 13th.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good now.
We have a quorum.
I'll be good. All right, that's a good start. We have a call for public comments. If that'd be okay, we can see if the public wants to comment on this. If you do, all we need is your name for the record. All right, seeing none, council.
We need a motion or anything, Mr. Bertie, or what's it,
Yes.
Mr. City Attorney, what's necessary?
I'd recommend that you make a motion to adjourn adjourn this meeting for both the city
For all the
council and the
agencies.
successor agencies. Well, we only have 3 for tonight, but, you know, we know we're going to have a successor agency, and we know we're going to have a city council meeting.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay, adjourn both of those.
Any and all necessary meetings so that we can accommodate the 11:30.
Now, you got to specifically adjourn this meeting.
Okay.
This meeting,
The city council.
City Council, Successor
agency,
Agency,
November 13th.
Housing Authority.
We do have an October meeting, October 2nd, so unless we want to skip that.
That's true, you can adjourn at that time.
Whoops.
I'm just, all I want to do is, the language here says cancellation, and you don't want to.
No, we don't want to cancel.
Okay, here's what we can do. We think we're at the 13th, we're fine. Why don't we come back in October,
Yeah.
we'll do
With
all.
proper
the-
language.
Proper
Okay,
language.
I
will be
withdraw the
fine.
motion.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
Fair enough.
So we have direction.
So we have direction. And with that, I can adjourn. No, I'm not going to adjourn yet.
Don't do that. Don't. Better
No,
check
I'm thinking
first.
successor, guys.
Better check.
We are at item 13 on your city council agenda, and you're also in item 6 on your successor agency. This is non-agendized items, public comments. This will be your opportunity to bring anything to our attention. We have a 3-minute timeline. Let's try not to get into a question and answer exercise, because that just takes a 3-minute line, 10 minutes. Anybody wish to come forward on any item, understand we cannot take action because it is not agendized. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Lutford, City Councilman. My name is Joshie Jacob, excuse me, and I live on the east side off of S and 60th. I've had problems since I moved there about people dumping in our backyard. When I can catch them, because I've become a slave to the running up my stairs trying to catch them at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, or if I'm asleep, I miss it. When I wake up to do my meditation, I see couches, TVs, and different things back there, trash. I call code enforcement for them to come out. They've come out numerous times to try to clean that area, to come pick up some trash that some people had dumped back their toys and different things like that. And they said they did not have the program anymore, and that they couldn't come and pick it up on Wednesdays like they were when Anthony Botelli was coming, and now Mr. Cortez is taking over that particular job. As the elders have always said, that the desert is very simplistic, and you come to the desert to get answers. So you ask questions, but when you open up your blinds or whatever you have, curtains, in the morning time when you're starting to meditate and pray, you don't want to see somebody else's negativity and junk in your backyard. I don't know what to do, how to do. I've called the sheriff department, but it's not very high on the list of priorities, and I understand that because 6 months after living here, I came and said we needed 4 more units of sheriffs on the field because there was just not enough, and they were overworked, and I thought that that was an atrocity, being that we are growing in such a vast number of people that we needed more sheriffs. I don't know what to say or how to say it to make you put more funding into that, because we need that. I'm not a sheriff. I can't go out there and holler. When I do catch them, I ask them, I go, hey, if you don't want to see it, why do you think I want to see it? Why do you want to bring that negative energy to us? You know, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, but you got to catch them. And then some of them think it's funny. They had told me to go and, you know, kiss wherever. And then I wanted to kiss with them. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to do, what to say. How can we get that back reinforced?
Well, I'm going to suggest that either you talk to Jim Pertee or somebody in the audience, because it's unacceptable that our inability to clean up this desert dumping when we need to ramp it up.
Yes.
And we do have a new contract with Waste Management that's going to give us more resources. We got a desert cleanup claw that we use, expedite cleanups. But more importantly, Waste Management picks up all that stuff for free.
Well, it's on the utility road. I'm off of 60 and it's behind our home.
I understand that. But anybody can call Waste Management in the city of Palmdale and say, I've got a bulky item. I got a couch. I got a fridge.
They say 300 feet from your house, or they
No,
can't
I'm
pick
talking
it up.
No. I'm talking about you as a homeowner.
So they don't have to go
I'm
dump
a
it, they don't
homeowner.
have to dump it in the desert.
Beg pardon?
So they don't have to dump it. All they have to do is call up and say, I got a
But they're
boat.
not, because people don't read all the time.
I know. We
So they
understand
just
it.
think they're getting away from
But that's the irony here, is we have a program where everybody can get rid of their big items if they want to get rid of them.
Yes.
All it takes is a phone call.
I was there 2 weeks ago at the Waste Management. I had some bulky TVs. I took them in, I read, and I saw that they had that available, so I took them.
Well-
And they took them out of my car. But see, these companies that owns this land back here, it's an LLC company, they are not gonna, they don't care if they get fined,
Well,
because
it's-
they're gonna give it back to the person that buys the land.
Again, it's not, they're not the ones dumping either.
No, they're not. No,
So
they're
in
not, but
fact,
they
they're a
get fined
victim
because
as
it's
a
their land.
property owner, they're a victim now.
Right.
And yeah, they should clean it up, that's the way the law works. But quite frankly, everybody in the Antelope Valley is required to take trash service. Required. And Waste Management will pick up your bulky items. So we should be able to solve this desert dumping problem, but for whatever reason, we have not.
Well, we need to have somebody out there at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to see them dumping it.
That
You know,
may
at 4 o'clock in the morning, here they come, you know,
Well, you know,
sometimes.
part of the issue is our neighbors gotta quit using these low-ball, fly-by-night hauling companies. They're going out to these houses, they're doing the cleanups, these apartment managers are hiring, you know, their nephew's buddy's friend, and the guys go, oh, I can clean it up, and the guy brings over a trailer from U-Haul, that should be the first clue, and where's it going? Don't worry about it. And people aren't asking for a receipt before they pay them for
Then
it.
they should be fined.
Well,
The
you're
ones
right.
that use those tacky-racky, whatever you wanna call them, you know, that's dumping and take, then they should be fined
Yep.
for them using them.
Well, maybe
Because
there's
we
something
are
we can
not
do about
able to
cracking
take
down
care
on
of that.
on some of these, you know, these unlicensed, unscrupulous haulers.
Well, I think
Everybody
there-
passes the buck.
I think
So-
the answer here is we've got to prioritize desert dumping as a
Yes.
higher priority than we have it today.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
all got to play a role, we all have a responsibility, and I think we can do better. I know we can do better. But quite frankly, these people are abusing us.
Yes, they are. And just one more thing. Is there any possible way that we could put a chain link across this utility road and just give the sheriff department and the fire department a key, or just block that all off?
Anything's
I mean,
possible, but the thing in the desert, you just go around that little pillar and it's flat
Put some
desert.
holes in there or something, you know? I mean, it really is an atrocity.
So you know what, I would suggest perhaps you can get together with code enforcement or city manager so they can know exactly where you're talking about and they can take a look at, are there any potential, because we have areas where they've been able to put up some barriers to reduce that. Other areas it requires them to come out there and fence it. In some cases, the property owner has to get a property management company to stay on top of that. There's a number of options. It's frustrating because that's probably about 2/3 of the calls that I get. Is look at this dumping. What are we going to do? Look at somebody dumped here, you know.
Right.
So, but I suggest, you know, get together with the staff guys here and let them know exactly where that's at, so they can go out there and send somebody over there, take a look, and maybe there's a solution. You know,
Code enforcement definitely knows my name.
Yep.
There is a
I call them
solution.
constantly. You know, and I'm very kind and very nice. I don't have to have attitude, because I need help. So you don't have attitude when you
Let me
need
tell
some
you,
help.
you
need
catch
to
one of
be
them, these
humble.
judges throw the book at them because they don't say, you dumped that, go pick it up. They make them clean the whole damn lot. They are,
2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I
they really
give
toss
you
the
a
book
heads
at
up.
them. Yeah. They
Okay,
really
if
do.
that's what time they come in the morning.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys, and I really would like to get together with you, Mr. Porti, to find out more information, because it just doesn't make any sense. You know, for years, and this is what makes me really angry, I know it's probably during that, but, you know, for years, I paid rent. I got everybody else rich off of my money. Now I was able to buy a home and invest in myself, okay, to make me look like, hey, I got the American dream, you know, but it's being tainted by somebody that don't give a damn, and they're doing whatever they want to do.
Don't worry,
to
somebody
this
will build a
beautiful
house there
land.
soon. So,
Really? I wish they would. I wish they just put it around and where it could be a scenery of walking and being one with nature. Because the desert is very simplistic. Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
nice
Don't
day.
go yet, ma'am.
Yes,
Let me
sir.
just give a couple of examples where staff has been very responsive to these kind of issues.
Yes.
When people like this throw stuff
Yes.
by the roadside, like
Yes.
Avenue S and Taxon, and you saw those mattresses there.
Yes.
There was another one on 65th and Palmdale Boulevard, right off the street.
Right.
Those are easy for our staff to go and collect, remove them, because it's within reach, within the right of way.
No problem, I won't be long, but when she talked about dumping, I am on the line of 2 and 1. On Avenue 5, no.
50s.
Thank you. Regular dumping. 5 years now, I didn't think I'd be there 5 years. 5 years, they're the same spots, same empty lots. I really would like to see fencing. I mean, and do I need to, because I'm a regular that calls for enforcement?
Mr. Miller?
Okay, so we can just stop, it's just disgusting, it's just bad, it really is bad. So listen, just bad.
All right. All right, who else would like to speak?
She was the nice one. Y'all are trouble. No, we live off of 60th and S on the east side, and this is a constant problem.
Can we
And
get your
they
name
used-
for the record?
Oh, Laura.
Thank you.
And this is, they used to pick it up, but they said now they changed it where they won't come out and pick it up. But there's a lot of kids that, you know, of course, there's always motorcycles back there. And I'm pretty sure it's the properties, the owner of the property, they get hurt. They're in a rude awakening because it is a LLC. And sending them notices and all, that doesn't do any good. They don't care.
But it's the law.
And we keep getting sued when we go on private property and then.
We go out and we move it off the road in the back, or we pick it up, and we're not doing it anymore. And when someone gets hurt or killed, this will be on record. And that's the important. It just seems like the east side gets dumped on, like you were saying.
I got plenty of spots on the west side.
No, we just don't.
Give me a call, we'll go for a ride.
Financially, we don't have as many cops there. We don't have, and the cops tell us it takes them longer. Well, we got more units on the west side.
That's baloney.
I'm just telling you what the cops tell us. My alarm went off and they called the police. I was in Monrovia and I beat the police.
80% of your patrol units are on this side.
You know, it's the east side gets dumped on, period.
We dump on ourselves.
Okay, you got, you know, huge money on the west side and the east side always is.
It's perpetuating something.
I mean, are you the council person for the east side?
Yes.
Because our votes do matter. And believe me, the latter part of October, I will be going out. If I can't see the results and I see you guys, if I know you're already doing one zone, so therefore that 40 million is guaranteed. It's gone, because you already just did it. But you didn't tell us it was attached until the league came up and asked the question.
That's not our money.
Those are private equity bonds. You and everybody else buy them.
But it's still our money.
No, it's not.
Sure it is. It's our tax money.
No, there's a private equity bond, just like when you go and you buy.
Guys,
Yeah.
we're way off the beaten path.
Yeah. But anyways, the dumping is got
It
to
is a big
stop.
problem.
And
It's
it's
a big problem.
foreclosures,
East side is
they
a very
hire,
big problem.
like you said, people, and they just dump them.
Yep.
But we're
That's
clearing the
probably the
roads
biggest
for the
problem.
emergency. And it's, I'll tell you what's disgusting. Our train, all your trains go through there. And they say, this is Palmdale, I go in there. It's disgusting.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, who else would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marcia Furman, and I live in Palmdale. Cancer kills. It doesn't care if you're young or old, a man or woman, rich or poor, of any race. It doesn't discriminate. Many people sitting in this very room have had an encounter with cancer. Perhaps a family member or a friend or maybe a coworker has had to battle cancer. Some win the fight, but too many lose. On Saturday, September 15th, the City of Hope is hosting its very first community event in our very own Palmdale Amphitheater. Together for Hope is a 2K walk, 5K run to bring awareness to cancer. All types of cancer, too many types of cancer. This is a free 4-hour event for anybody to walk, run, or gather information about cancer. but in reality, it is a fundraiser. So we are hoping that folks will get together with friends or family members or coworkers and come out having raised some money to donate in their name to this worthy cause, getting rid of cancer. You may wonder, as I did, how can this event be of any service to me since I don't belong to the City of Hope? This is how the funds are going to work. It will be how the funds will be distributed. 90% of the sponsor contributions will go to the City of Hope right here in the Antelope Valley. Donated money from regular folks like us and 10% of the sponsor money left over will go to cancer research. I am a 14-year breast cancer survivor, and I know firsthand how research benefits not only my type of cancer, but all types of cancer. The difference between the 1960s, when I was an Air Force medic working on a breast cancer ward, and today is mind-blowing. The amount of treatments that can be customized to different cancers is phenomenal. All this progress comes through some type of research and its breakthroughs. We have to continue through any means possible to wage battle against this killer. Please, all of you have checkups. Encourage your loved ones to not be afraid to follow up when something isn't right. I hope to see you on the 15th. Stop by the survivor tent. I'm one of the lucky ones that'll be inside. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marcia, and Bobby.
Huh?
I'll be there.
Okay, I'll see you.
Yeah, we just, my brother just had a routine medical, and they found abnormal test, was not symptomatic. And 1 month after he retired, they found out he had bladder cancer. So they caught it early just because it was a fluke. But you're absolutely right. It's all about the follow-up, and it's all about the treatment.
How's he doing today?
Doing okay so far.
All right, who else would like to speak? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Phil Denny, you've heard this before, and you're likely to hear it again. It's about the illegal fireworks. I missed my spot last month, and anyway, I went back and I watched the tape from when I brought this up in July, and there seemed to be a lot of interest. Just because September is here, it's a huge problem. It doesn't mean that fireworks illegal is going to go away. It's not going to go away. I don't know what can be done, but I'm willing to be that spark plug or whatever it takes. Mr. Hofbrauer, you offered some after the meeting advice last time, which never happened, so I would like to talk to you after this meeting tonight. And see what can be done about the illegal fireworks.
They're still going on in my neighborhood. Here it is, September.
I mean, they started Memorial Day and they go to Labor Day.
Yeah.
We need help, state and federal level, county level. These fireworks are being imported at a phenomenal rate, and it doesn't seem to be any visible effort to stop that. I mean, where are they coming from? We're not manufacturing them here.
Fireworks aren't made here, they get brought in from somewhere else.
Exactly.
So I had a meeting with some guys from San Bernardino the other day, and one of the things that they did out there for the fire department out there in Ontario is several of those guys have gotten together, and they've tried to make up this past year for where the state fire marshal has dropped the ball. They used to stake out at the Pahrump and at the state line and at the reservation. State cut that money out. They reinstituted that in July, but July 1st is a little too late for that. Ontario and some of the other departments were working where the agricultural inspection station is, and they managed to catch a bunch of them, confiscate a lot of them because stand up there and just look down in the cars for the visible stuff. Problem is that they put all that stuff aside and somebody wasn't watching and somebody stole the damn trailer full of fireworks. So it's like, no good deed goes unpunished. And that's what needs to get back. You need to get back to that rigid enforcement at the state level, and you need to take a look at the judges and the judges that are throwing out the fines, because our guys are going out writing tickets and the judges are throwing them out.
So there's lots of help needed in every possible direction. Your issue is a good issue. We just need help.
Yeah, lots of help. The only other thing I want to mention is your 3-minute time limit. I think it needs to be terminated. I think it's archaic, outdated, and dumb. That's my opinion.
And it doesn't go for 3 minutes anyway. It goes for 10.
And I'm asking you officially to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, vote on it, and vote it out of here. These meetings don't go till midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning just because
They have.
just because
They
of
have.
public comment.
They have.
We have had rooms filled with 100 people that each one
Yeah.
wants to speak.
Okay, well, they generally don't.
Yeah.
But I'm asking, put that on the agenda for next month and vote it down and get rid of it.
I think that we're very generous in our time limit, that when we have the opportunities to accommodate people that want to talk more than 3 minutes, we do. If we don't have that in place, when we get 200 people that want to talk, then what do we do at that point? So we have to maintain 3-minute and allow people on times like this the opportunity to extend their time. I think that's much more feasible.
We've seen it. So you got to have some kind of rule that allows the meeting to move. Because we can talk indefinitely. Well, you found it. We can take your time and tell you what we think, because we do it.
It's about parks.
So I hear what you're saying. We don't want to inhibit public comment. I get that. And we don't try to. We try to be very warm and fuzzy. And I think tonight's an example of that. So we just continue to work toward it.
It's easier for us to break a rule to give you the gift of more time than us to break the rule and cut you off when we've got 200 people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think too, it's probably more productive is if you call up your individual council members and sit down and have the discussion with them, because we can only have so much discussion back and forth here, for this guy down here cuts us off. We can have a lot more frank discussion sitting over at Starbucks or at Butler's Coffee or something like that, where you can really flesh out a lot of ideas, where it's only limited by yours and my time and not everybody else's. And then we can bring the result of that, come up here, and you can tell the history of the world in 3 minutes then. So.
Okay. And one last question. The Antelope Valley Fair runs for 10 days. And I see all the other fairs, several fairs, Orange County and some others, they go for 3 weeks or close to 3 weeks. And why is the AV Fair only 10 days?
Again, the Fair Board would be a good question for them, and the state. I mean, there's a partnership there that sets the agenda. We don't.
I think part of it's also when they can get the vendors, because I know like the carnival guys, they pushed the fair, pulled the fair forward a week because LA County changed it, and that was a bigger venue for like the carnival operator. And they're going to go with the big guy, so
Yeah, and
it forces the smaller fairs to kind of juggle their guys around.
It's a big state network, and you can't have one running at the same time as another one, and it's a state coordinated effort
But his question is, how do others go longer? They obviously have done something different. That's a good question again for the Fair Board, and maybe that's the place we need to go with this. Is why? Maybe that's just a friendly question. Why? And I think they can give us some insight.
All right. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, who else?
It's expensive.
All right, I think we've exhausted the public comment. All right, so with that, we're going to go to item 14 on our council agenda. Oh, by the way, I can go ahead and adjourn the successor agency now, which I will. And we'll go back to our city council agenda. And we are now at informational reports on what we have done with our various committee memberships and meetings attended. Who would like to go first?
Okay.
All right.
A lot of good stuff going on in the last month. Lots of progress has been made. First, one of the events I attended was the Facing the Sun, where we unveiled the piece of artwork with the sundial over by Development Services. It really is something spectacular, and it's getting our art program on the right track and adding culture and a lot more art into the city. So that was a really good start. It was really well attended, and our city manager gave a really heartwarming speech that touched the whole room. I went to the Palmdale Monthly Chamber, the State of the City address. Again, that was a packed house, and our mayor and city manager gave an awesome presentation and showed us what a good city we are and how we're on the right track and where we're going is a good place. I think we have another State of the City address coming up soon.
Thursday morning.
Yeah, so if you missed that one, we got another chance to catch it again. Palmdale Recycled Water Authority, we have an updated plan that kind of consolidates how we're going to move along getting more purple pipe, more recycled water to our parks and other city facilities. We're also looking for funding options. In that meeting, we went over the various different types of funding options that we have in order to do it. That's basically one of the big hurdles that we have, getting recycled water out of some of these parks and city facilities from the sanitation district. AV QMD, I went to that meeting. We're still giving out money to businesses that have outdated diesel equipment, trucks and lawnmowers, stuff like that. So if you've got a business that has equipment that is potentially polluting, you have a chance to go to the AV QMD and get a grant to help subsidize purchasing new equipment for your business. We also had a very successful lawnmower program where you can take in your old gas lawnmower and then you're able to get an electric lawnmower at reduced cost. That was also very successful. We had a program in here at City of Palmdale and Lancaster at their program as well. I attended a ribbon cutting for the fish grill over where the Habit Burger and Chick-fil-A over that new center.
By Aldi's.
Yeah, by Aldi's. That's a great restaurant. We got a lot of burger joints out here, but now we got a fish grill. And that was well attended, and I think
And tasty.
Oh, it's so good.
Well, you got a heck of a salsa bar, man, let me tell you.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great addition to our city, and we had nothing but positive feedback from other people there that love going to fish grills in other cities, so that's something else that just puts us on the map here in Palmdale. I met with some residents for various issues, for trash, graffiti, stuff like that, and I've been working hard with them and with our staff here to get that cleaned up in a timely fashion. Also attended the Sheriff Boosters meeting in which we are raising money for our local sheriff's department, and right now one of the things that I'm working on is getting tasers, new tasers in each one of our deputies' hands, and we've been on that path. Lots of other good stuff going on, but I'll let my council dig into the rest.
You just cherry picked all the good stuff.
That's what happens, you go first.
Yeah, going first has its benefit. Right?
That's why I go first.
So we sit on a couple of the same boards. I'll try not to duplicate that. Sheriff's Liability Trust Fund Oversight Board. We're still continuing. We're starting to get some. We're starting to get the county council and the insurance guys to understand that we are merely not going to be rubber stamping every one of these. Some of them are very frivolous claims. You know what? I want to make sure everybody understands. The number of claims by our sheriff's department are way down. The problem is that people don't want to settle. They just think it's a cash cow. And we're cutting off that spigot because it's ridiculous, because every deputy that's out on the street over there, we're paying 10.5% on top of his salary for liability fund reserves. And it's a whole lot of extra cops. But like the lady was asking, why don't we have more cops? Well, that's the other problem, is because those guys can't crawl out of bed without getting some kind of complaint. And the good applicants are going to Temecula or Manhattan Beach, and they're just having a hell of a time hiring. So recruitment unit. But on the good side, I just got the word that it sounds like we got a recruitment thing coming up here in this very room here, coming up very soon. So that happened while we were at liability having a meeting, and they said, well, all of our good applicants are coming out of the Antelope Valley, but it's hard for those guys to get there, and some of these kids don't have cars. And wait a second, why in the heck are we not doing it out here? So while we're on that call the city manager, call the guys in Lancaster. Is there any reason why we can't have something out here? No. So it's happening. Councilmember Betancourt and I, we had the cannabis committee meeting, got another one coming up. The consultants are providing us with a base level of information. And we've got another meeting coming up in a couple weeks. If you're interested in participating in that, keep an eye out on the city website, look for meetings, and you'll find all the meetings in the world. You can go to a meeting every night if you want to go to meetings. The sanitation board, we had a lot of discussion about groundwater adjudication. Google it. There's more information there than you're ever going to want to know about groundwater. Bottom line is we're trying to get few things resolved on that, get it dialed in. Contract Cities Association, I was at the meeting last month, and Sheriff McDonald gave us an update on, again, what they're doing to try to help resolve some of the recruitment issues and hiring and retention issues with the Sheriff's Department and things of that nature. I was also got a pretty nice certificate and picture suitable for framing from the Sheriff himself for completing the Council Member Academy. There's a Citizens Academy for residents as well. If you go to that, you're going to learn a lot. It's a real eye-opener when you see what's going on out there, and you see how quickly you have to react to some of these things. 20/20 hindsight isn't what, it's a tough deal. Desert Mountain Division meeting for the League of Cities. Mr. Perkey and I attended that meeting. We had some couple of good reports from other communities, get a lot of good ideas from legislative issues and things like that, and trying to maintain our local control issues. We had the division elections, president, vice president. I was elected the state rep for the division that runs from Mammoth down to 29 Palms and out to Palmdale and Lancaster. So
That's a big district.
it's a huge district and a lot of stuff going on. AQMD, like Mr. Bishop said, if you got a business, we're giving away money. We gave away about $150,000 at the last meeting, and tell you what the most exciting thing was some of the stuff gets so wonky. You start looking at these rules, and you're trying to abide by what the state CARB is telling us to do, and our aerospace industry and several of our large manufacturers out here were having some real difficulties with the potential rules that were coming down, and the AQMD staff did, I got to tell you, yeoman's work, and working with the agencies out here. A couple of days later, I ran into an exec from one of the aerospace companies that is doing something, but we don't know what. And he told me that the rule change we made in an hour and a half at that meeting and discussed saving that company over $1 million this next year. And so it's something to think about. I also had a gentleman come up to me, the staff over there, if you got a business, you need some help, they help facilitate some changes out there, and that was another $1 million that he was able to facilitate for his business expansion. If you got a diesel pickup and it's a large one, hang on, be aware that CARB has got some rules coming down, and your diesel pickup, if you've got an older diesel pickup, if you don't have personal plates on there, is going to become obsolete in the next few years. So you need to take a good look at this. I'm getting the bullet points from AQMD. If you want more information on it, you can email me, and I'll get it out to you personally. But those people are going off the deep end of the abyss here with some of their rules. Legislative committee meeting with contract cities, just talking about the scramble at the end here, where they give you a stack of bills this big, and you got to decide them all in the next 3 hours. And guess what happens there? There's a method behind that madness. Went to the same art function. The fair parade was great. It was beautiful weather that day. Kids loved that thing. We had the metalachi. We had the business appreciation breakfast. Went out to the job resource fair at UAV. Here's how hard it is for our sheriff's department to recruit, is when you got places like Simi Valley coming in, poaching out here to get guys to go apply for Simi Valley PD. So, but that room was packed, and I'll tell you what, if you've got people that are looking for work, they've got to take advantage of these job resource fairs, because they can go in there. You got the veterans groups, if you got people that, if they need a suit, they got a suit there for guys. If they're qualifying individuals, whether, you know, especially like the veterans guys and stuff like this, and they just need a nice jacket to go to a job interview. They got programs for that, so it's all there for you. Fish grill, great tacos. Kiwanis Duck Race raised a lot of money, also a lot of fees, but a lot of money. And there was I worked the front gate, and it's really cool watching all those kids coming in, very excited. They see the big duck in there. They see the poor guys that drew the short straw that had to be in the duck suits, you know. But the kids just had a blast out there. That's if you missed it, you missed probably one of the most fun things that goes on in this town on a Friday night or whatever it was. It was a blast. We had most of our council members are out there at that thing, and we were all working. We all had our yellow shirts on and a stupid little hat that made us look like a duck.
I like that hat.
You know, my grandson loves it too. A lot of other stuff. I went to the ABC MC3 graduation today. They had another one out there at the Eastside campus. And here's the other cool thing. On the ABTA board, we implemented several changes. Campus Connect bus. So you guys know how long it took you to get from the Eastside campus up to the Lancaster campus? It was 2 to 3 hours to get up there. That's on a 1 hour, yeah, because I took it. When the guy came into council meeting and complained, I took it, I missed my connection, it was 3 hours. That became an all day, I took the Uber back. But
you're direct now.
Yeah, I know. Now it's direct. So you get on that bus, people are coming in, it goes from there, stops at the transit center to allow people to pick up interconnection or to go to pick up the train, and then it goes to Lancaster. That's a 30-minute ride. And then turns around and comes back in 30 minutes. So basically the travel time is reduced by about 90% on that route. So, and the kids are loving it, man. I was at this MC3 graduation where guys were doing their pre-apprentice training, and I had 3 or 4 guys come up to me when we mentioned that, and they said, that is the best thing. They really are happy about it. So that's what makes all the hassle that you go through really pays off when people come up and they tell you, hey, you guys did something right for a change, and it affected my life in a positive manner. So that's what makes it worth it. So, bunch of other stuff, but I won't bore you with all the details. So, somebody will cover it.
Okay. A couple of similar events that were already mentioned. The art reception facing the sun right outside of the development services. Really cool to attend that grand opening. It was really a nice piece of art. Then the Recycled Water Board, meeting with Mr. Bishop. I went to the AVTA board meeting where I was sworn in.
Oh yeah, welcome aboard.
Well, not to be sworn out soon. But it was a really exciting meeting. Lots of things happening over there, like you mentioned, the bus routes, cutting that time for travelers. The Kiwanis Duck Race, another event that was already mentioned. I attended that as well. The backpack giveaway by the Palmdale School District at Sage Academy. Very successful. I think it was their second annual. I think there were like over 2,000 backpacks that were given away at that event. I've noticed the street lights on the east side. They're making a difference. They're making their way through. Little by little, we'll get all of those.
Lots of good
done.
positive.
Yeah. I've noticed the directional signage from City Hall. It's brand new. It seems to be effective now, pointing to the right direction.
Let's hope.
Good job. Let's hope. Yeah. I'm sure we'll hear.
Yeah.
From, residents. Yeah. I got a couple of calls from residents regarding desert dumping.
Yeah.
And staff was very proactive. Thank you for doing that. 2 locations, 65th and R and Avenue S and Taxton, I believe. But again, those are within able to really be very proactive and collect those. JJ was really busy these last 2 weeks. Good job, JJ. That's all I have.
Okay. I attended the State of the City address at the Chamber, and I, of course, went to the Kiwanis duck race. That was a lot of fun. Hey, I just kind of wish we didn't have such a long line for food. Not that I need more food, but if the line was a little shorter, it would have been a lot better.
That's the biggest complaint I get about the water park, is it takes too long.
Wait for the food.
Because the food is better.
Oh, man, it's
and
great.
more people want it.
Yeah, vendor. Hey, I'm sure.
The prison meeting that I'm on the Citizens Advisory Committee, and it was actually postponed for a week, so I was not able to attend that because it conflicted with a training that I had down in Los Angeles. I wasn't sure if anybody else had taken that place for me. We had the cannabis meeting. It was an interesting meeting, a lot of interesting information. We have another one coming up, I believe, on the 24th. School started at Allen Valley College, and so classes have started. I'm at the Palmdale campus, and I'm working with our dean out there, and we're doing some possible prison teaching outreach programs, having teachers go out and try to do some academic training out of the prison. That's kind of in the works. I went to the fair, of course, and I agree it should be longer. I like the fair, sampled all the food and did a lot of walking around. I had my birthday, so I won't tell you how old I am, but I think I'm actually older than the city, which is really sad. Some things that are coming up, of course, the cancer walk, and my dad died of cancer, so of course I'll be there on the 15th. On February 8th, we have the International Festival at Ponsalon Park.
November.
I hope to see people
Not
there.
February.
Is it? Oh, sorry, September.
September. This coming
Sorry.
Saturday.
Yeah, so September 8th, 15th. Sorry, I'm so tired.
8th.
It's the 8th?
The international.
Yeah, the international's on the 8th. There's something else on the 15th. That's the walk.
Cancer.
Okay, the walk. Went to the ribbon cutting with the rest of the council people for the fish restaurant, which was really nice. We also have the end of summer blast at Dominic Missouri Park coming up on September, has passed.
It's done.
That's the one we were, that's the one we were at the other day.
Yeah, okay, missed that one. Looking at my notes here. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a mystery story event at the Playhouse on February 8th.
February?
Oh my God.
No,
why
not
is
February,
it
September.
Why is it February?
It must be somebody's
Because you want it
birthday.
cold
It
weather.
must be September, so yeah, September 8th is at the Playhouse. It's some type of a mystery event, it's kind of interactive. It's the first time I think we've done that. So I'm gonna try to attend that also, after the other events that I have that day. I think that's it for me, and I'll try to not be in February next month.
All right. For me, again, a lot of the same things. We're all running pretty hard. I did get to meet the new economic development reporter for the Valley Press. We got a good sit down, and we're starting to weave our story with her. So that was very good. Met with some property owners and developers for the Avenue West corridor study, which we are moving on. And so there's some development pressure on us right now. But we made a commitment to that corridor that we were going to do the study and determine land uses so people knows what's coming. And so that is something we're moving on. And I've got to tell you, the neighborhood is pretty happy up there in Anaverdi over that. The hill Anaverdi. I'm sure your neighborhood too, but it's a good thing. The art reception, again, I think everybody's been raving about that. And this was something, remember as a council, we didn't understand what that art piece was. Initially we went, what is that? We weren't really as flattering as we are
We're still
today.
saying, what is that? I think we're just saying it looks cool though.
Now yeah, it's cool, but the point is it's very cool. And anyway, it's just the first of many to come. The art in Palmdale, I think that's a huge opening for us to make a huge, huge difference. And that Metalachi concert obviously was probably the best one out of the whole series. got to say, you never know what the taste of our residents are going to want. So Metalachi, I would not have picked them as the number one, but they became number one. But we had a great concert series. And I got to say, our staff did fabulous work. So Carrie, good job. And you pulled it off. Pretty active summer. Sanitation district meetings for both Lancaster and Palmdale. And yeah, we're talking about, just day-to-day business. But there's some ag interest that's being expressed that just something you want to stay tuned on because it's coming. And High Desert Phoenix team, I went to their practice and got to meet them all and got some good pictures. It was these guys are reigning champions for their division, and so they are in celebration mode. But again, good stuff. Chamber luncheon, of course. I try to make it all the chamber lunches because I think it's important that we connect with our business community. And employee recognition, we do that as our employees get their service, 5, 10, 20 years, to make sure we spend time to say thank you. I went to the air park tour, the night tour, well attended. I was impressed. And Kathy does a good job. She does a good job. She'd probably make a good tour guide when she grows up. Other than that, I'll get some.
If you ever been out to the air park at night, it's pretty cool. It's totally different. It's like touring the monuments in DC is different at night too.
We've got probably one of the best, if not the best, air park anywhere. I'd like to see one that compares to ours. And at night, it's especially beautiful because of all the uplighting. It makes those airplanes really pop.
It's the Disneyland of air parks.
It's like a Disneyland of air parks. Of course, we want more.
Can't ride it in though yet.
Not yet. All right, I think for me, that's just about it. I did a Vets for Veteran groundbreaking. I even went to Lancaster for that. Snuck in, got out. They didn't know the difference. But our veterans are important, so there's a new home for transition in Lancaster. We're going to get one in Palmdale as well. Navigated Social Security office, went and met them. Hispanic Chamber Mixer. Again, just trying to stay connected. Lots of briefings. Ribbon cutting for the fish grill again, and we're all raving about that. The duck race, of course. I'm the official duck plucker.
Yes, you are.
As I have been since the beginning. It takes a special expertise, but maybe not. But it was a lot of fun.
That was fun. It was a lot of fun.
And then, of course, we had a great Labor Day. That's kind of the end for me. You guys, as a staff, I just want to say good work. I give Carrie all kinds of kudos because she just survived the summer. But quite frankly, our staff does good work on a regular basis. Doesn't mean we're perfect, doesn't mean we get it all right, but I think overall we've got a pretty good energy. And I think Jim Pertee, I got to give you a lot of credit for that because you've brought this organization now we're marching. And that's a good thing. And we're going to start, well, we always have been doing great things, but I think we're going to see even better coming out of this. This energy, this team that we have. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We got a great city. That's it for me.
Well, I'll tell you, Mayor, when I can be gone for 2 weeks and not get a single call from a council member, and that just tells you what a great team we have. They handled everything. They did it well. They did it with grace, and they all pulled together. And so just want to send my appreciation out for
You're putting a good team together. That speaks for it.
a real 2 weeks off. I think it's probably the first one I've had in 20 years.
Well, JJ did a spectacular job.
Yes, he did.
Filling your
Good job.
shoes.
He did.
Thanks, JJ.
Awesome.
Good work.
He probably needs a vacation now.
Yeah, he does. All right, let's go now to item 15, request for new agenda items.
You're going to get the community workforce agreement on this next agenda, or what? I hear you guys got a meeting coming up?
I have a meeting tomorrow, and so I have a draft to go over. We'll see how much they like it.
All right.
And we'll go from there.
Yeah. I would like a item to be brought about desert dumping.
Yeah.
I think our community needs to see what we are doing and the expectation. I think we need to work to elevate the expectation.
Can we maybe a workshop on that?
Well, I think it could be a combination of things. I'd like to see the collaboration with Waste Management. I think they can do more with us. And I'd like to see, I want to know what the county's doing, Chuck. Quite frankly, I think you're part of the issue, no doubt about it. So I would like to see the county included in that. I'd like us to set a goal. of a substantial improvement over desert dumping. I'd like to eliminate it. I'd like to take it on like we did with homeless. Mike Miller, by the way, great homeless plan. We get all kinds of raving about it. Good work. You established the bar and we're making it happen. But I'd like to see the same in desert dumping.
Part of the problem, and we heard it tonight from a number of people that don't really realize what we're doing, what the resources are, how they can facilitate getting that handled in a more timely manner. What the resources, like with the cops, how the deployment is really working, how code enforcement responds to this stuff. I think if we have a workshop, but I think I don't know how else we can get the information out there. And there's only so many people with newspapers. Not everybody looks at. We put this stuff in online. It's on the city website. It's on Facebook. We Twitter this stuff out.
We're doing all of the above.
All of us are sharing it. I'm not sure what else we can do.
Well, it doesn't matter because what we're doing is not enough.
Yeah, I don't know what else.
We've
Short
got
of having billboards on every corner, and we're taking those damn things down.
I would like us as a city to establish a high bar in desert dumping. I'd like us to be more comprehensive. I'd like to be more responsive. I'd like us to do all of the above. And I'd like us to kind of invent that path. I mean, we thought we took on fireworks with that. We elevated the fines. We tried to become more proactive. That's a tough one, but so is desert dumping. Maybe we need to start fining, confiscating cars. Maybe we need to do something to get people's attention.
We need to attack this on
The
multiple
sheriff's
fronts.
department used to have an illegal dumping task force about
right.
10 years ago. And so when we engage in the workshop, perhaps we could have them on board with what their efforts are. We, instead of recreating what's already been done.
Well, it sounds like, so a community outreach meeting that involves the county, the sheriffs, waste management, obviously our staff, the public, and do more than just a workshop, make it a true community outreach meeting.
I'd like us to establish maybe some new parameters, whether it be a penalty or marketing or how do we engage people to get more information?
Well, that's
into
how
their
many
home?
people I talk to, and I tell them, call the 94 Pride line or use the My Waste app, and they look at you like you're speaking Martian to them. We've got to get that information out. The people got to know that. We've got to have it, every city building has got to have a sign on that has a 94 Pride.
Maybe we can use some of the billboard slides that we get.
Well, all of the above.
Yeah.
But I think we need to do it in a meeting. Well, what I'm going to say is, here's how we're going to do this, guys. Adding items to the agenda, I want us to formalize. Motion, second, we either all agree or we don't. That's the direction my staff needs, our staff needs. Because I got to say, adding these elements, it's important, it's good information, but I'm not sure we're all on the same page. We're just being nice.
We are in this one.
Kind of doing this. But in desert dumping, I think we are.
Yep.
So I don't, what more do we need? A motion to have a future item?
Yes, that'd be the best way to do it.
Okay.
He's trying to get us to shut up is what he's trying to do.
Trying to get us to formalize how we get stuff put on the agenda.
Do we have a motion?
I got a motion.
I'll second it.
And we got a second. Anybody opposed? I mean, I don't really want to vote. I mean,
Do
is
we
this
need
a
to vote?
process we can vote?
Yeah, I mean, it's just giving us direction.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
That's very clear.
Okay.
All right. That's the way we need to do it, boys and girls.
Well, I think sometimes some of these things city manager just solves.
He solves a lot more than we give him credit for.
Exactly.
Not just the stuff up here.
Anything else as far as future agenda items?
Yes, I do have one. If we can look at putting crosswalks, the ones that illuminate, the reason I bring that up is because there was another fatality on Avenue S and by the Target. I understand it's the second time that somebody gets hit at that location. I know it's people jaywalking, but it's kind of dark there. I've been there a couple of times. And if we can look at what kind of devices we can entertain.
The smart crosswalk.
Yeah, smart crosswalk. I think that would be beneficial not only at that location, but in other ones as well. Again, the reason, another accident at that location. I don't know what the process would be when we start looking at what.
Maybe they can look at when we're using the Safe Walks to School funds, if that if that can be something that can be incorporated into it, and take a look at some of those routes and see if we can tap that fund.
Yeah, we can find out, as long as we're keeping it in crosswalks and not starting to pick jaywalking areas and so forth, because there's no way to really protect those.
This could be an opportunity, again, in the general plan, to identify these intersections that are problematic. And maybe we develop different criteria for those, like S and R on 47th Street as an example.
And the other thing, I just wanted to thank staff for fixing those retention basins. The one on R8 and Rocky Lanes already fixed, looks pretty nice. Same thing on Avenue S and the Target. Those two were fixed. They look nice. Thank you for doing that.
Public Works has really stepped it up. Those guys are extremely responsive now.
So on the crosswalk side, Matt's looking at me again going, so
we get a motion to add the crosswalks.
Is that a motion?
We have a motion from Laura.
To add it to the agenda.
Could we
bring back an item?
Could we consider an option? And I'm not trying to discount it, but there may be some information already available right now that if you were to just provide us that, it might satisfy
Here it comes.
our
Here it
need.
comes. Here it comes.
I'm happy to do that at the city manager's direction, but I did want to mention that the particular intersection that you're talking about, we submitted for an HSIP grant for that intersection for a new signal, new highway safety lights that would be part of the signals, and we also are going to add some street lights as well. So, but that was, we submitted that at the end of August, and the ratio was very high. It was like 4.5 to 1 cost benefit ratio. Unfortunately, it was very sad, but this we are reacting. So I just want to make that note.
So something to consider is there may be information available now that might satisfy our need. And at that point, it may be appropriate to consider putting it on the agenda for a public discussion.
So I think a lot of times when we do these agenda items, it's not necessarily going to come back on a council agenda. It gets it on his agenda because sometimes this stuff gets solved, like you said, quietly and efficiently, and it's just done. So,
and sometimes just a memo too.
Yeah.
Send us a memo.
Yeah, so we have one of city council boxes, I think, on this one. What are the options out there, and then go from there, and then we can also fill in on what Public Works is already doing.
So could we provide, and then from there maybe we determine whether we need to elevate it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
This isn't an agenda item for next time, but I'm sure you guys have seen the Public Works guys are out there changing out the street lights already, and man, do they look good.
They look
Nice.
great.
They look
Lots
great.
of very positive.
Nice and bright, yeah.
Very positive.
Positive. I think it's going to make the city safer at night.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
He's run out of paper.
Yep, time to go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for being here. This meeting is adjourned.